You know what I'm thinking?
Tell me, and then I'll tell you if you were right that I knew that what you were. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm thinking of you have
Restaurant.
actually that it's weird. What I was legit thinking was you have an overwhelming desire to see me eat an automobile. So that's weird that you said restaurant.
If you did eat an automobile, I kind of feel like in another 24 to 36 hours, we would know where car 54 was.
We would also know where my insurance payment is going to be mailed to Jen, because them lug nuts, they go down kind of tough. Wow, dude.
Hi, everybody.
Yes.
So, hope you're strapped in for several hours of magic like that. I am James Kirk. I'm going to be one of your casters this evening. I am joined by fellow caster and ever-loving life mate, Jack Berkenstock.
Hello.
Tonight we are. I'm so damn excited. So we are bringing back the Bodhana cast. This is in a much smaller degree. This is a show that Jack. Are you okay?
Yeah, they put us in little boxes now, so I felt I've got to break free, as the Freddie Mercury would say.
Got to break free.
Nope, we can't.
Okay.
Oh wait, it's a certain number of seconds.
So thank you. So this was in a much smaller scale, a show that Jack and I used to do on YouTube. There's about 14, 15 episodes, I think,
about that
are on YouTube channel. Where we sat down and we talked about a game. And we low-key reviewed the game, but the real purpose of it was for us to talk about the therapeutic opportunities with that game, whether it was a board game or an RPG. We had different segments for that stuff. But we would break down the game. We would have it, set up on the table in front of us, and we would kind of walk through some in-game situations of how those things would apply, that sort of stuff. We have now grown, and now that we're on, now that we're on the Twitches, we have been told by our producer, just so you know, that it will be their fault for this and not ours.
Don't put that on Crimson. Come on now.
That we are supposed to fill more than 30 minutes of content.
Oh no, yeah.
So what happens tonight? What happens tonight is still mostly our fault.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. So this will be the maiden voyage, the first cocoon breaking, butterfly making.
Wait, I have a term. It's the re-inaugural broadcast. Oh?
All right, I'll allow it. That's
all
fine.
right.
Right.
Jack
So,
1, James 0. Okay.
Don't do scores because I will
Gauntlet.
I will blow your face out by the end of this thing.
I have a Green Lantern power.
Not even. The only reason that it isn't a shutout is because I didn't know we were scoring until now. So shutout is a sports term, by the way, Jack.
What sport? Pig ball, orange ball, stitch ball, or ice ball?
All of the balls. It refers to one team not scoring any touch goals whatsoever.
Said balls.
Okay, their score is 0. Shutout. All right.
Shut out.
So, this show is going to contain all sorts of weird, crazy, amalgam-like things. Jack and I have, over the course of time, many different segments planned. We're going to rotate things in and out. We want you, as our listeners, to message us or contact us and tell us things like, hey, that segment was really cool. I'd really like you guys to do that more often. Or that segment suck the wet hair off of a dead raccoon. Don't ever put that on my screen again.
I want to just I forgot to mention one teeny tiny thing. I am sorry to interrupt your flow.
Oh no,
Sure.
it's all good.
It's one teeny tiny very important thing, and that is
Sure.
that I have the ability to quote and save anything you guys say in the stream that can be recalled at any point ever again. So the first quote
So
is
sound bites?
No, it's words. So the first quote is I said balls, Jack.
Hey, we have catchphrases now.
Yeah.
That's my new catchphrase.
This is
Let that be a lesson to you, Jack.
Oh no,
Yeah,
this is
is
my
not
pleasure
going to go.
as your
This
producer.
is not going to go well for me at all. Unmedicated ADHD. Whoo.
All right, have fun with that, boys.
Yeah,
So-
taken
thanks.
out of context.
Tonight, as our first segment, before
We
we
have
get
a
into a game,
Wonderful rendition of the Black Swan. I will, of course, be doing interpretive dance with all 5 of my cats. We have practiced the moves extensively, and we are looking at providing very much meow ballet.
okay, everybody, I'm gonna need you just for a minute. We're gonna pretend that you're not here. I just need to talk to Jack. Jack,
Hey, what's up?
that was for another 4 to 6
I
weeks.
looked at the wrong segment.
Yeah, you're jumping the gun a bit.
This
It's
is
out of
going
the
to be
bag now, but
cats out of the bag.
yeah.
It's going to be like the Nairobi Trio. This is a true story. Eddie Kovacs, a pioneer in early television, promised a group known as the Nairobi Trio would come and appear on his television show. And he did this thing where he literally staged it for months and months and months. And everybody's like, when the hell's the Nairobi? I'm sorry, folks. The Nairobi Trio is going to be, waylaid for another week. And he promised it for months and months and months. It was this huge buildup. And it was this, you could actually, Ernie Kovacs, again, he was a pioneer in television. Jeff Goldblum actually starred as him in a movie, and he did a great job. It was very entertaining. Yeah, he was kind of local also, like Philly. There's going to be a lot of moments like this tonight.
Ask your grandparents, kids.
Ask your great-grandparents.
All right, so for our first segment tonight, and you probably now have gotten a little bit of a glimpse into what Jack is like, we are going to just interview each other on some of our favorites, kind of almost like a not necessarily a nerd cred list, but just some things that maybe you want to know about us, might paint a little bit of a picture.
Sure.
So now the thing that Jack and I wanted each other to do, though, is we wanted to do this so that we were each interviewing each other with some kind of character, or some kind of voice, or something. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Jack go first, as far as asking the questions and things.
Okay.
And Jack, you have the list there, right?
Yes, I do, sir.
Okay,
Getting
good
to
stuff.
know you.
Yeah, we are. So everybody, this is James and Jack of the first episode of the Bodhana cast. Thank you for joining us on our Bodhana group Twitch channel, and stick around because we have all sorts of stuff planned for you this evening. And we're going to start with the getting to know you segment, since this is our first episode. Jack,
Inaugural broadcast, yes.
renaugural. He made that word up 10 minutes ago. Fire away, my friend. I'm ready to bare my soul.
So I can do this interview with you in any voice that I want.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to make it kind of as serious as we could possibly be when we go into the interview. So, without further delay, could you tell us what your favorite book is?
Yeah. Thank you very much, drunken random hobo person. And thank you for coming to the studio today.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. So, favorite book? Wow. I I can I use like just a small like series, like a trilogy of books? Is that okay? Because it really is my favorite. But
I don't see an S, but I'll allow it.
thank you very much. So
No
probably
problem.
my favorite collection would be the Chronicles series from the Dragonlance books by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. Dragons of dragons of stuff. Dragons of Spring Dawning, Dragons of Autumn Twilight.
The dragons of stuff.
Yeah. No, those three books with the group of heroes that they had created for that, Tanis Half Elven and Raistlin, Karaman, Sturm. That was really what got me into fantasy. It was not Tolkien. It was that series of books. I was fortunate enough to actually be able to interview Margaret Weiss years and years later, and then to have to control myself while doing so I didn't sound like a sputtering nerd. Just like, I love all your books. They're really good. But yeah, that would probably be it.
All right, and I love how you kind of highlighted, some of the things that we're doing right now. We're having a conversation, so we're talking about things. So, in the spirit of this, also, what is your favorite movie? Is that voice annoying?
No, it's fine. Totally
Okay,
fine.
I'm gonna change it.
I'm gonna go with. Again, there's so many. I think it would have to be Jaws. No. Yeah.
Jaws.
Oh, it's so close. It would either be Jaws or Aliens. Actually, probably Aliens, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah,
So
Aliens.
either we need a bigger boat or it's a bug hunt.
Well, either we need a bigger boat or we just nuke the entire site from orbit. Because it's the only way to be sure.
Both of those would absolutely work. All right, next question. Favorite song?
You okay?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine. I'm trying a new thing out. Favorite song? Band. It's a different voice. The other one didn't feel right.
Okay.
So it's actually, it could go like, all right, Val, go ahead. Give me a favorite song or band.
Yeah, I just picture you as an interviewer just like tagging out to the next person. And like, the next person comes in.
We get 2 questions. Go ahead. I'm not really writing anything
It's like the
down.
auditions for Jeopardy.
It actually, yeah, you're right.
So wow. How about, can I highlight an album by a band? Like just
Hey. A whole album? Is that in the parameters of the question?
Because front to back, I never skip any of the tracks on it ever.
So it could be considered one entire track, just it has weird cessuras. That's a literary reference.
That sounds like it should get checked at the doctor, but yeah.
I learned that word because of Eddie and the Cruisers. Anyway.
Tori Amos's Little Earthquakes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I've never heard that album ever.
I
sure
listened to the crap out of that album. Yeah. That's the only even with Pretty Hate Machine, like I still like Little Earthquakes is the only album that I think I've owned in like 3 different iterations of it, like this remastered one and then this, like anniversary edition and stuff. Like I only do that with movies, but that particular album, it's incredible.
All right. Nice.
All right there, Mr. Turtle.
What's your favorite Muppet? Because I'm still on that character. 2 questions
Good.
per character.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Favorite Muppet. Come on, you're stalling, buddy. It's like
mean, it's really just from personal experience. It's got to be Kermit, right?
oh, it has to. Do you want to share that story now? Because I
I
think
can.
it's interesting thing. I don't think
Getting to
anybody
know you,
knows.
sure, yeah. So little known piece of Bodhana lore about me. I got to meet Jim Henson when I was like 4. I was super young. They had done a live episode or a live like a live show, pretty much, at the York Fairgrounds that my parents had taken me to. And after the show was over, I'd gotten lost, and I got separated from them because we were in general admin. So while my parents are like, trying to look for me, I had, because I was 4 and small, wandered like a hobbit into like the backstage area. I imagine as a hobbit, because as a 4-year-old, I was probably motivated by either toys or snacks.
Your feet were that hairy at 4 that you consider yourself a hobbit?
There are some things that I am still self-conscious about that we probably don't need to bring up, Jack. Thanks very much. So
Go ahead.
Okay. So as my parents are looking for me, I get led back out front and eventually find my parents being escorted by this very nice bearded man that was cleaning up some stuff at the stage area or picking up some things, and happened to just see me kind of wandering around and thought it's a little small to be a stagehand. And brought me out, and I found my parents, and my dad telling me this years later, like, my father was completely shell-shocked, and my mother had no idea why my father who is a pastor and gets paid to talk for a living, to string like 5 words together, right, in the presence of this random bearded person, turned out to be Jim Henson. And he talked with my family for a couple of minutes, and then brought out Kermit, and I got to talk to Kermit. And then he had a black and white photo of him surrounded by all the Muppets, and he signed it to James from Jim Henson, whose real name is also James, and then gave the little pen like to Kermit's hand. And Kermit asked me if it was okay if he signed it too, and of course I'm like a kid, I'm like, yeah, when you sign it, oh my god.
Is that how you sounded as a kid?
I assume. And then, he signed it, and Kermit the Frog, and had like the little swirly G on the end of it. And I have that photo framed and at my home. I've showed it to Jack. He's seen it. There's legit like that's I wish that I was old enough to like really remember it a little better. Other than like secondhand accounts, but still, like, I was 4 and I got to meet Jim Henson after a Muppet show.
And see, now you're a turtle, so apparently it is not so difficult being green.
No, it's not. You just have to change clothes occasionally.
Hello.
Or not change clothes.
French interview press. I have a few questions for you, Mr. Kirk. I was next in Milan, you know what I'm saying? So, what is your favorite board game?
Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven's life.
Gloomhaven. Why is Gloomhaven life?
So Gloomhaven
matters not. We are born astride the grave. Sorry.
Just thinking about how often your mother should have maybe hugged you.
More than she did, but...
So, yeah, Gloomhaven does everything that I love in board games nearly 100% correctly. For a game that has like 99 scenarios and then 2 expansions and solo scenarios, like,
and weighs
been
more
playing
than a
this game.
small child.
Right. Yeah, I've been playing this game with Jack, in a group for 3 years.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, dude,
we're-
this month 3 years, because we got it right around. It was right after Save Against Fear that year. Because
no, you know
remember,
what? You
we
know what? It's
played
been longer.
games on
It's been-
Thanksgiving.
yeah, it's been longer than that because
Yeah.
pandemic.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Um,
We lost that whole
We
year.
weren't able to play at all. So probably been like 4 years since we started playing it, and we're still not
I'm
done
not writing anything down.
with it.
Yeah.
It's pretty fantastic. It's got secret and legacy components and
Wait a minute, though.
unlockables and
Tell the fine people out there how much it is life to you. How many different Gloomhaven campaigns are you currently a part of? Not counting the solo one that you do in the online facility. I was just gonna say, time. Yeah, you got all Booker T about that one.
4, not counting the solo one on the Steam version.
Absolutely, love it. So again,
Yeah.
a follow-up question, Monsieur Kirk. If you do
Okay.
not mind, for the lovely people, yes, I will get my baguette in a moment. What is, of course, your favorite RPG?
Deadlands. 100%.
Deadlands.
Deadlands.
Uh,
Deadlands-
Original or Savage Land?
Oh, the Savage Worlds version made it extremely playable. Not that the original content wasn't
Hey, no shade
Wasn't
on
good.
Pinnacle, dude.
wasn't good or compelling or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. The system itself, I thought, was a little clunky. And the Savage World system makes it much more playable. It breathes much better. I really enjoy it. I think the subject material itself of cowboys and dead things is really compelling to me. Being a horror nerd, that's
Nerd.
yeah. So yeah, it would be Deadlands.
Then I have just one more question for you, Herr Kirk. That
Okay.
you could answer for me just for eine Minute, bitte. What has not been turned into a game, but perhaps needs to be? Are we doing the psychic thing again?
No, we don't have.
Oh.
This is just sometimes. This is my thoughtful pose.
Oh.
We're gonna get this a lot. I'd have to say, I am very low key, working on
Loki, got
transplanting.
it. Oh,
No.
sorry.
I am very low key, LOW space KEY, working on transmuting this for Savage Worlds. To just make it a world in Savage Worlds. But I think a really good Mass Effect RPG.
Okay.
It's an incredibly rich world, lots of diverse characters and races. We don't have a glut of really solid sci-fi themed games and properties out there.
They could print 3 rule books, one with a red cover, one with a blue cover, one with a green cover, and it doesn't matter which one you buy.
Yeah, because the outcome would just be the same.
Yeah.
Every
That
time.
checks out.
So yeah, that would be it.
Awesome.
Mass Effect. Yeah.
Sweet.
I mean, yeah. Does the German gentleman have any other questions?
I have no more questions.
Ausgezeichnet.
You have answered all of my questions.
Danke.
I didn't actually have a pocket there. It just fell into my lap.
Yeah, no,
I have no more questions for you, Mr. Bond. You have been most cooperative.
So, now we know a little bit more about me, and maybe it's time to now turn the tables and perhaps learn a little bit more about Jack.
I'm the wind, baby.
Oh. Right. So to turn this around, the ship is frickin' sinking, okay? Jack Berkenstock. Lovely man. Let's I'm gonna do this in a different order, Mr. Berkenstock.
Oh, see, now I'm just all thrown off. Now, what the? Left is right, up is down, north
You
is
have
south.
your frickin' answers.
I do. Hold
Mr.
on. Let me get a
Berkenstock,
other
what is
book.
what is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is most definitely Ghostbusters, the original. I have seen it over 400 times, at least. I still keep laughing at not only the same jokes, but I always still, at this point, manage to find something different that I did not
At
notice before.
400 times, does it keep getting funnier every time you see it?
Not to mention the fact that I'm a dead guy. Or you're talking to a dead guy. I almost misquoted Beetlejuice. But yes, Ghostbusters, absolutely incredible. Actually, funny story. When I was in college, a buddy of mine, Jerry Buchanan, and I, we actually were both kind of committed Ghostbusters fans, and we quoted the entire movie from back to front, or from front to back. We basically started the beginning of the movie. We did like blocking, stage direction, sound effects. We literally went, you do a line, I'll do a line, back and forth. People are like, "Oh my god, that's so sad, nerdy," and I go, "Was it? What was nerdier? The fact that we did this for like an hour and a half to 2 hours, or that we had an audience of like 25 people who sat in the Union Food Court at LaSalle University listening to us. And at that point, I figured that one day, if Sunspot Activity were to remove all telecommunication from the Earth, I would walk the Earth as a modern bard, going from town to town reciting episodes of television shows and movies if we lost all electronic telecommunication. So I got the apocalypse going for me, which is nice.
Yes.
I made you laugh.
Apocalypse.
Sorry.
The apocalypse, which will not be caused by me. Mr. Berkenstock, what would you say is your favorite Muppet?
I've got to say Kermit. I got to agree. It's one of the things why we're brothers from another mother. No, I've always loved Kermit. I don't remember.
Do you feel that the other mother that you think that we are both from would have been equally as effective in raising the both of you?
The both of me? Wait a minute. How many of me are there? What do you know? Am I the clone?
You and your partner, Mr. Kirk.
Oh, got you. That guy, because that's obviously not you. Ching! Yes. Definitely. I don't know why Kermit. I've always liked at the Muppet Show how he's like, quote unquote, and again, this is just a weird Bodhana thing, like just in charge of it. But it's also like there's a scene in the Muppet movie, which could probably be my second favorite movie of all time. I always cry when I watch it. But in that scene where he's kind of like, all I wanted to do was make people happy. Like he's like out in the desert, like having that conversation with himself about, well, all I did was, start this thing and everybody wanted to jump on board. And that's kind of how Bodhana feels some days,
I have said the same thing to myself in the mirror while in the shower. Watching all of the mist come from the shower head, saying to myself, I just want people to be happy.
Wonderful. Please continue, evil interviewer.
Good morning. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions.
I
I'm
don't
going to have them
know.
answered immediately.
Okay.
First question. Who is your daddy and what does he... I'm kidding. Don't look at me like that. Stop.
Oh my lord.
What is your favorite song or band?
Oh my gosh. That's actually probably one of the toughest questions on this entire list.
That is why I asked it, because I will be the toughest interviewer.
I don't know. I mean, without a doubt, I would probably have to say, like, if you talked about artist as opposed to, see, I don't know. I want to answer it the way that that James answered this question about if it would be like an album that I love every track on and literally had to own at one point 4 different copies of, because I literally played out the cassette. Yes, I'm that old. Played out the CD like multiple times, and it would be Megadeth's Rust in Peace. That album, every freaking track on that album, I was going to be amazed if you would have reached behind and grabbed Megadeth's Rust in Peace. But yeah, I would have to say.
Your partner gave this to me before I began the interview. He wrote down what he thought the album would be. Would you like to know what he thought?
Yes, actually, this is strange. Are you going to say a Weird Al?
No. He has written down here anything by Barry Manilow.
He is wonderful. He doesn't get the credit he deserves.
He also said to wait for Jack's stunned face.
Nicely done, Arnold. Arnold, sorry. Very nicely
Don't
done.
do this for compliments. Will not make it easier upon you.
Okay. Certainly couldn't be any harder.
It depends on which one of my muscles I flex on the side of your head.
Let us not break the internet.
Jack Berkenstock, what is your favorite RPG?
Gonna sound like I have a canned response here. I would probably have to say probably the Ghostbusters RPG. Mostly because of what it kind of meant to me. I monkeyed around with Dungeons and Dragons for a while when I was like 12, 13 or whatever. Never really understood truthfully how to play. But I started playing the Ghostbusters RPG in high school because of my love for the Ghostbusters movie. And the person, a friend of mine at the time, introduced it to me, and that just got me addicted to role-playing. It's a simple rule system. Some of the components don't maybe age as well these days with some of the like sensibilities and stuff like that. But it's a great game from West End Games. I actually still own. I own a box set of the original RPG as well as a sealed of the sequel, Ghostbusters International. But that is probably still my favorite role-playing game. I actually still run it. I still play it at conventions and run it for people, and it has actually been modified and put into Bodhana trainings. That's how much I love a dice pool system. First game to use a dice pool mechanic, actually. Yeah, take that.
Thank you for coming to this interview today. Sit down and speak with me about the things about your own personal. Are you okay? Do you need a minute?
Yeah, I'm fine. I thought we needed background music.
I do
Violins
not.
or something. Okay.
I have your own background music playing inside my head at all times.
My
So,
apologies.
Mr. Jack Berkenstock, what is your favorite book?
Oh, God, that's tough. I'll be honest. I don't know what a favorite book would be because I don't really read.
I was gonna make a joke about maybe you not being a big reader, but apparently you're gonna go that route for me.
No, I mean, I would have to say that if it would be a book that I read multiple times, that I've enjoyed every time that I've read it, it would probably be Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Would probably be the only book that I would really say that I've like book. I mean, there's plenty of like short stories and little things which have been like, Lovecraft, love the fiction, not the guy. But yeah, I would have to say as far as a book, it would probably be it would be Hitchhiker's Guide.
You think that is because you find yourself a wanderer? Somebody who is lost and looking to be found.
plague to walk the earth. No, I just love the humor. I love the way that he writes, and just I mean, technically, book it would be kind of like a collection for you. It was actually I had it like an omnibus of all of the books in the series in one big leather-bound collection. Had that
Did
for
you park
years.
that thing?
It's actually in a storage facility in Utah.
Can we see the storage facility?
No, I don't think the Mormons would let us in.
That's fair enough. I don't want to
That
deal
is
with
fair.
Mormons. Alright, so as my follow-up, Mr. Berkenstock, on this day of your first show's Twitch stream, I will ask you this question. You can give me whichever answer best fits the answer to the question, so that people can learn more
Sure.
about you. What is your favorite board game?
Also a very tough question. Um,
It gave me
that
all the
changes.
hard-hitting ones.
No, that answer honestly changes rapidly,
Much like
but
your underwear.
hopefully, but it perhaps I've said too much. But I believe because I play a lot of games very frequently. Currently, my favorite board game to play is probably Marvel United from Simon. Just because I love the variety of characters and I want to dive more into how different all the decks are from each other and how the villains are themed. Like, so I want, not to mention the Simon Marvel United X-Men pledge that's coming very shortly, that then we'll have like 11 expansion sets and stuff. So I just want to uncrate all of that. Plus, the minis in the game have led to some awesome hangout moments with my good friends of having little painting gatherings and painting get-togethers, which I have been loving painting. Something that's pretty new to me. So yeah, Marvel United brought me a lot. It's currently my favorite game.
Okay, so this is going to be the last question for tonight. I got brought in as a special guest interviewer because I get paid in both love and cheesy pips because I love cheesy pips. So for your last question for this evening, is a property that in fact you did not see turned into a game at some... Are you okay? Do you need a minute? Do I need to go somewhere else? Are you okay? This is you're
Oh,
getting to
I'm
know your
fine.
interview.
No, I'm fine. I
Super
actually
cool. So, is there some kind of a property or some other thing that has not been turned into a game at some point or another? You sat there in your boxers and inside your bathrobe, and while you were sitting in the dark, thought to yourself, "Oh man, this should be totally cool if I could turn this into a game. Yeah, I'd really like to play this."
That's awesome. Honestly, I think one of the things, and I don't know if it should be a video game, a board game, or a role playing. It could be all three, in my opinion. But
It's a cool any way you look at it.
yes, would be the Our Star Blazers anime property from the late 70s, early 80s. It was basically this whole story of how the Earth was poisoned by cosmic, or just by radiation, and they
Did
sent
it poison
a
because it was
crew.
Kaz fat?
No, it was not Kyle's fault. It was they had to go to Iskandar to get the cosmic DNA, and one of the coolest things I liked about it was, and I think it would actually make it an incredible board game, is that you have to basically get from the Earth to Iskandar and back. And it was awesome that at the end of every episode they gave like a counter, like it ended and it said, "There are only 75 days left to save the Earth." So it was like this countdown that every day I would come home from school to watch this cartoon. It was also one of the first cartoons I saw, like in the first episode, one of the main characters that you thought was a main character died in the first episode. I'm like, oh my god, dude. I'm a kid. And like a character's dead? Like this is the real. But yeah, our Star Blazers, the
It's
SS
actually not
Yamato.
that big of a deal if you think about it. Kenny does like all the time.
Is that Kyle's fault?
I mean, it's mostly Kaz fat. Kaz 6.
Ashley.
Have any other comments or questions or anything you want to say, Jack Berkenstock?
No. We have
All right,
so
well, I
much
gotta
more
tell
fun.
you, this has really been a fantastic interview, and I want to thank you for being part of my show. And I'm gonna go get going.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Cartman. Uh,
Children in a Net Cap, South Park.
yeah,
Uh,
there we go.
Yeah. So
Come on,
that,
Primus, make that happen.
getting to know you, all wrapped up in a nice bow. I hope you guys have learned more about us, or at least like how weird we are.
Well, it can't be that bad. No one's
But-
run off yet.
I would like to suggest, Jack, if you're ready, I think maybe we should dive into our Bodhana breakdown and talk about the thing with which we came to talk about tonight.
Bodhana breakdown. Too much?
Somebody make a note that we should really do some sound effects so that Jack
Jen
doesn't
just
have
yelled
to.
no
Like,
from the other room. Jen
I'm-
was just
I'm
like,
afraid.
no.
I'm afraid that he might get a hernia somewhere in his abdomen if he has to keep doing that every episode.
I would
So we should
probably
probably just do some sound.
I'll just sit here and one day you'll come over and I'll just like reach over very slyly and all of a sudden you'll hear like and I will have bought a soundboard.
I can't wait for that day.
Yeah.
I legitimately
People say
can't.
the same thing about the Apostle. But James, the Bodhana breakdown. I will go ahead and introduce. So our Bodhana breakdown is there are a lot of game review shows that are out there, whether it's in a Twitch broadcast, YouTube streams, what have you. Most game review shows focus primarily on what do the boards look like, what do the components look like, does this game play well, is the art pretty, all of that stuff. So you're going to get that information from everybody. That is not the focus of the Bodhana breakdown. Are we going to talk about what is fun about different games? Absolutely, we will. However, our focus of the Bodhana breakdown is to introduce you to games and to talk about them not only on a basic review level, but mostly focus on how helpful could this game be in terms of if you are a therapist who wants to use this in group therapy, a parent who wants to introduce a game that helps develop very good skills for your children, or if you're an educator who wants to use a game. So we talk about the game from a slightly different lens. So every episode of the Bodhana Cast, we focus on a game. Sometimes you might focus on more than one if they're small games. But James, you've brought one of your personal favorites to the table today. So I'm definitely going to turn it over. So yeah.
So this episode kind of feels like, and we'll get this as we go. Jack mentioned it's probably his favorite movie and also his favorite RPG. It happens to be one that like I have a very special place in my heart, which is Ghostbusters. And later in the show, Jack and I are actually going to give at his behest a spoiler-free review.
Yeah, we can't,
of Ghostbusters Afterlife, which Jack and I had an opportunity to go and see Thursday night. But since we're talking about established IPs, right? And we're very like Ghostbusters centric throughout most of the rest of this episode. But I've brought for discussion tonight Disney's Villainous. So we are going to discuss this wonderful thing that came into our lives just a few years ago.
I love the we're gonna discuss this wonderful thing that came into our lives. It's just the way he said it. It could have gone so dark, and I love that.
So the designer of Disney's Villainous was Prospero Hall, and it's published by two different companies, Wonderforge and also Ravensburger. And by virtue of being published by Ravensburger, that means you can get it at Target.
Yeah.
Target essentially sells like every Ravensburger product. I honestly don't know if they have like if it's just a deal that they have with them because they're expanding their board game stuff, or if they like maybe have some sort of stake in Ravensburger. I don't know. I don't know, care,
dude.
because I can get cool games there. So
steak and Ravensburgers, you're making me hungry.
My fault. The game will. It says now, and bear in mind, whenever we talk about this and we say like playtime, this is just what is out there as far as like their suggested playtime, the amount of time that they think this game takes. It will likely take longer if you are teaching people how to play. If you have a group of people that are playing, that you are just as focused on hanging out and playing a game as you are just like, all right, everybody, we're not talking. This isn't a social activity. We're here to play. Which is weird, but you could do it that way. So they say about 50 minutes for a game of Villainous. You can play with as many as 6 players. I will tell you the sweet spot for this game to really get what I've seen, like I've personally experienced, to get like the best, the best experience from the game is between 3 to 4 players. Like 4 players is about cutoff.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, especially
And
especially with
you'll
new
see
players,
why.
right?
Yeah, you'll see why as we get into it. But the game revolves around decks of cards, and you're playing cards from your hand, and it's the cards do have synergies and can have combinations with other things that you're doing, so people tend to plan out their turns, which is something that we're going to discuss, and a skill that this develops. But I'm now going to open the box.
What's in the box? Is pain in the box?
Oh, that's
I've heard that
Yeah.
pain is in the box. No,
yeah. We're
well,
going to talk
as-
about that later too.
Yeah, while James is doing the kind of getting the components and stuff out and getting them ready, I just wanted to say a word about, something we mentioned at the beginning of this segment, which is the idea of board games and IP. And again, for those of you who are kind of like newer gamers to the board game hobby and even the RPG hobby, to be honest, the history of IP and tabletop gaming, it was kind of like IP and video gaming. They didn't always go very well together. It's like, I'm going to play the Punky Brewster board game. Well, it's a roll and go, so you collect, enough mismatched shoes to get to the end where you find Brandon. Get a hug. Or it was, games that were so out there or just mishandled the property, and you're like, why are you focusing on that? That doesn't make any sense. But we actually have seen, and I mean, Ravensburger is one company, but there are, a lot of different game companies have really been doing a great job lately, specifically like IDW Games. They put out a bunch of titles with like really good faithful adaptations. Like we have the They Live board game coming out, The Thing, Outpost 51. Like there's just been a lot of games that I think with the breadth of designers out there, they've really been doing an amazing job at matching IP, right, dude?
There's some like CMON that kind of specialize in not only IPs but like specifically like minis games. Yeah. Like games that have a lot of miniatures and do like tactical games and things of that nature. Like that's kind of their wheelhouse. That's what they do.
Yeah.
USAopoly is another one that's done some really good IP work.
Harry Potter deck builder, Battle for Hogwarts, yeah.
Even though it's not, it may not necessarily be established IPs, I would also bring up Restoration Games from this, because Restoration Games specifically, like some of their stuff, they took old Atari video games like Joust and Missile Command and made board games out of those old video games. I thought it was Restoration Games. Maybe.
No, I think that was IDW actually.
Oh, was it IDW?
Yeah,
okay.
They did the initial. That's why I was surprised when the Space Invaders one that recently came out. That one was actually, I think, Funko Pop Games, who's also been doing a lot of good IP representation. So
yeah, one of the nice things initially that we can talk about with Disney Villainous is that it is very recognizable to anybody that is at all familiar with any of the Disney animated films. The base game set comes with 6 different villains. the Queen of Hearts, Maleficent, Prince John from Robin Hood, Ursula, Jafar, and Captain Hook. And then there are also 3 expansions with another one that's it's either out now or it's going to be out very soon. That added another 9 villains, the whole thing, and
Wow.
some of it were like there were a couple of like fairly deep cuts. Pete from Steamboat Willie,
Yeah.
being one of them. And one that Jack and I really like, but probably not a lot of people have seen recently. Professor Ratigan from The Great Mouse Detective
Oh.
is one of the villains in this. So anyway,
Voiced
the
by
IP
the lovely Vincent Price.
yeah,
Such a great character in The Great Mouse Detective.
IP is really accessible, and if you have a favorite Disney movie, like a favorite animated movie, likely there's a decent chance that the villain's been made for this game. So everything about the game goes back to the IP and does a wonderful job of representing the character. So I pulled out the Queen of Hearts because I think the colors will show up a little better as well. But all of the pieces are crafted to represent the characters they play. Like you could look at it, in most cases, you can look at it and be like, oh yeah, I know what character that's supposed to be. And just because like this one's particularly cool, I pulled out the Maleficent piece as well. They're just really nice. So the game comes with your piece, and there is no central board to the game. Right? So the game plays on each player's individual board. And it looks like this. You can see a picture of the Queen of Hearts over here. And then below it, it has your goal for winning the game. This is the thing you need to do before the other villains in the game do the thing they need to do. Then there are 4 spaces on your board. The object is that each of the villains are trying to complete their plot, their scheme, and it goes right along with whatever they were trying to do in the movie. It was about the much less important hero. So in Queen of Hearts' case, she has to summon her this sounds so weird every time I say it. She has to summon her card guards.
Card guard. Like
card
Peter
guards.
Card Guard?
Right, Peter Card Guard.
Card guard.
She has to summon the playing card guards, and have at least one at each of the 4 locations, and then turn them sideways by activating them and turn them into wickets for her croquet game.
Wicket W. Warwick?
Yeah, that's it. And then once all of the cards become wickets, she has to play a card from her hand called Take the Shot, and basically line up her croquet shot and be able to score it. And if she scores the shot successfully, she wins. Like she's just trying to win at a game of croquet.
Yeah.
And that's what the Queen of Hearts is trying to do. Her characters have like very thematic things that they need to do to complete the game. Some are honestly some are just harder than other ones.
Yeah.
I think it's probably like if I have like one main complaint about the game, or one thing that I think characters are all represented really well. Even like as the expansions go, sometimes games can do too many expansions and they kind of lose some of the older characters and properties along the way as they we came up with new ideas, and then there's a chance that it becomes out of balance. One thing I like about this game is the fact that the rules stay exactly the same. They just find thematic ways to fit these different villains in. Some of the stuff where, like I just told you, the queen you have to play card guards out of your hand, and then you have to flip them sideways, and then you have to have another card in your hand called Take the Shot and play it. And then you have to hope that the numbers of the score that comes up is what you need it to be. There's a lot of Prince
There's a lot of
John-
hope in general in that game, though, because it's a lot of it is about setup, wait, knock it down, right? I would say most of the
Yeah,
strategies
so,
involve that.
but then
which
there
is
are characters-
okay, you know.
But then there are characters like Prince John. Thematically, completely fits the character. He's trying to collect money.
Absolutely.
He needs to collect the most resources
Or
to
taxes.
start his turn with like X amount of resources.
I believe it's 20 gold if I remember correctly.
It is 20, but it's such a like yes, it's difficult, but it is comparatively more simplistic.
Yeah.
To try to do that. You know, there are other characters like Captain Hook has to like find the map to Neverland and then find Peter Pan and defeat him and then be able to move this thing over to the and like there's so many like Jafar just makes my head explode.
Oh
You
my
know,
god,
so-
yeah.
There are some complications with it. Each of the villains comes with, like I said, the board game piece. There's a little card that tells you what each of the symbols on your board are, and then a handy dandy thing on the back that tells you what the goals of each of the villains are in the game. Because it is very important that not only are you trying to do what you need to do as fast as possible, you need to pay attention to what other people are doing. Because you need to know what the goals of the other villains are and how close they are to completing them. Because it may change your decision making, accelerate things, so on and so forth. The other component that Jack and I we can't say enough good about this. Instead of teaching you the basics of the game and then just giving you the villains and being like, here's your cards, here's your stuff, go figure it out. Each villain comes with a little
I'm about
pamphlet.
to testify, James. I'm about to testify.
Each villain comes with a little pamphlet, okay? Inside this pamphlet is a strategy guide. Okay, so as a player, I get all these pieces. Strategy guide tells me specifics about the cards that are in my deck, how to use them, how to strategically work my way toward victory using the things that are in my deck. Not only does it tell you the main way to do it, it will also give you descriptions of other cards that are in your deck and how they can help you to be able to get to victory faster than everybody else.
And this is the most amazing part about the game, truthfully. Well, one of the most, because James and I go into regular rant fits about how, come on, dude, like the game that you designed has like 37 different icons, 56 different resource pieces, but you couldn't be bothered to print out one piece of cardboard that acts as a legend or a guide as to what I'm supposed to do on my turn. Ravensburger goes extra and goes, oh, no. We're going to tell you how your character works specifically, and here's a short list of what everybody else's win conditions are so you know generally how to stop your opponents as well. It's awesome player resources that a lot of games don't consider. In my opinion.
I had a train of thought. It was all going like woo woo, and then it just stopped.
I'm sorry. Did I do that?
Currently at. No, it's okay. You didn't do it at all. Like most of the times when we sit down to play this game, I've played this enough times that I know like most of the villains in their decks. Like I don't need to do it. But new players, all I have to do is teach them the basic rules of the game. They can sit down with their strategy guide, 5-6 minutes, kind of read through it. You'll see them looking through the cards that they have and looking for the ones that are referenced, kind of reading some of the other ones. The nice thing is it gives you context so that as you're reading through the deck, you already know the main components. Then you start seeing other things in the deck that weren't even in the strategy guide. Right? It's so cool. It's such a great way to design a game and allow it to be more accessible for new players. So the last two things that I'm going to bring up as components are the decks themselves, right? And this one is probably has a glare on it because it is in fact white. So you have one deck that is the color of your character, and then you have a white deck. One that's the color of your character is your deck. As the villain, you are playing out of this deck throughout the course of the game. It's all the tools that you're going to need to win the game. This one is the deck that other players will use to mess with you throughout the game. This is called your Fate deck. So whereas your deck has all of the tools and things that you need, Fate deck has all of the smarmy people that were trying to stop you from what you were entitled to during the course of your movie.
Yeah, that's Alice. Smarmy.
So
But I don't understand what you're saying, sir.
right. So Jack, let's do
Her
just
cat's
a
name
little
was
bit.
Delilah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Let's do just a little bit about basic gameplay, just the very basics, because we don't like this is not about teaching you how to play.
Right. And I can summarize, but that's another cool aspect of the game, just to briefly go over. So basic components of the game are you have various spaces on your board, and they represent locations that are central to the IP theme of the villain, but they also have different icons on them that will show you literally how many and what your actions are on your turn. So every space is different, and there is a top and a bottom side these spaces. Now, the interesting thing about this is sometimes these locations are going to be, or actually most times, they're going to be very directly related to what your villain's scheme is and what they have to do throughout the course of the game. But the other part that's interesting is it's a very simple legend. I think there's, 6 different symbols maybe that you can do.
There's 8 or 9. There's 8 or 9 different ones, I think.
Okay, it's like pick up a card, play a card, play a fate card on another player, which we'll go over in a second. Collect monies.
Power. It's called power.
Yep. Then there's also go and attack someone. Right?
Vanquish. It's called Vanquish.
Thank you. Yeah, you have all the coded stuff there. But the idea, again, we're not teaching you exactly how to play it, but when you go and move your piece, you have to move on a different space every turn. So you can't just sit there and do the same thing every turn. You have to strategize based on how many cards do you have? Do you have enough power to use the cards that are in your hand? Do you have someone who is threatening you on a space? You need to go there to be able to vanquish or to be able to build up and amass a defense army of your own. So that helps you move back and forth along your board and to do different player actions. Now, one of the very interesting ones is the Fate, where you play a Fate card against an opponent, which basically is something to kind of jam them up. Now, unfortunately, it's not always something that's going to jam them up. Sometimes you may have just given your opponent the card that they need for the next phase of their plan.
It is interesting, right? Because the way that some of the villains work. Like Maleficent has heroes that are working directly against her the entire movie in Sleeping Beauty. So Maleficent, while she's trying to curse the different lands, most of the heroes that are in there are meant to either get rid of curses that have already been laid or to somehow prevent her from doing so. Very differently, Scar from The Lion King. Scar wants to collect defeated heroes into this prestige pile. And once he's collected enough points of ascension or prestige, he's now the king. Right? But the first thing he has to do is kill Mufasa. So Scar...
Say it again.
Mufasa!
Ooh.
So Scar wants to go through his Fate deck as fast as he can to find Mufasa and put him in play so that he can defeat him to get his victory condition rolling.
Yeah.
So somebody that's playing Scar, you may not want to target with Fate actions early, or maybe you want to try to target them with a bunch to try to mill Mufasa out of the Fate deck and hope that Scar doesn't have a way to play Mufasa from the discard of the Fate deck.
Yeah.
You can already see where this starts to get very complicated. go continue with fate actions.
No, so I mean, the cool part about the fate action is it brings more cards into play, which again, part of this strategy isn't knowing just what you're doing, but it's also knowing what your opponents are doing at any given time, which is why, as James said, the sweet spot is really 3 to 4 because it's kind of a nice balance for not having to focus on too much that other people are doing. So you don't get overwhelmed by, oh my God, I got to focus on me and then 5 different players and different schemes, which can be a little overwhelming, especially if it's your first time. I mean, there's definitely a lot of good playability, and I'm trying to think of other things about the mechanics. That's kind of the basic. I mean, you understand more the more that you play, the different villains and how they go in. What did I miss, James, on that?
Well, I just like like Jack was saying, the biggest thing about the fate actions is that it covers up half of the space.
Yes.
So that the actions that are on the villain spaces, there's 2 above and 2 below. When you place something from the villain's fate deck, it covers up the top 2 actions. Those actions now become unusable until the villain gets rid of that hero or that card that's sitting up there. So these fate actions are meant for it's the hero showing up, to do a thing. Villains have different ways that they can deal with them. You can summon a bunch of allies, and like my ally's power is equal to or greater than the power of the hero. They're at the same location. I use a vanquish action.
Done.
Vanquishing and fighting is really super simple in this game. It is always 100% of the time mutually assured destruction. You do not have to worry about this person survives, this person doesn't, interrupts and instants and all that. Vanquish action. What are your numbers? Attacker is equal to or better than defender. Everybody goes. Period. Done.
Yep.
And then summon more allies because you're a villain. You have minions. Don't worry about it. So yeah, and so I think talking about this from a therapeutic standpoint, I think one of the biggest things that this game does for me, and it's even a skill that I have, that this game lets me kind of practice and do it a little better every time I play it, is situational awareness.
Yes.
When you're playing a game, you're playing something that is competitive. It is very easy to sort of get lost in your own strategy, get lost in your own head, and then out of nowhere, you're getting really excited about what you're about to do. You're going to do your Randy Orton pose, and then some 70-year-old woman 3 tables away at the fire hall yells, "Bingo!" And you're like, "Oh, I was 1 number away." So you can't know what's on that lady's card because she's 3 tables away. And don't ever yell bingo at a bingo hall if you do not have bingo. I have done it. These people are serious.
They'll cut you. They'll wait for you in the parking lot. All you'll see is the flash of a glittered handbag with pyramids and cats on it. It'll say Atlantic City, and that's the last thing you notice before you die.
I felt like I should have brought my own milk carton.
So you thought it'd be funny to call a fake bingo, did you? I'm gonna see blood.
When you're playing Villainous, it is absolutely crucial not only to know where you are, know what step in your plan you're at, be able to have, your plan of attack, how you're going to do things. All of that stuff is very required, and we're going to also talk about strategic planning and forward thinking. But the ability to be able to, in a 4-player game, to know what the other 3 people in the game, not only what they're doing, where they are in the process. Has Jafar hypnotized the genie? Yeah, because that's part of his thing. Has Captain Hook found Peter Pan, or is he still looking for him? How much money does Prince John have? All those kinds of things, and kind of take a look at what they're doing. Be cognizant of how small their remaining deck size is. How much of their deck have they gone through? To find the cards that they need.
So it
Look
is
for-
important.
Look for like those small, slow setups that people are trying to do. The Queen of Hearts is really good for doing this, where you just like you can innocuously just I got another card guard out. I got another card guard out.
Yeah.
I got another one. And then all of a sudden, Queen plays one card that allows her to activate and turn them all into wickets. And now all of a sudden, you're like, oh my god, if she can take the shot next turn, she might win.
Yeah. And it's all
Okay.
over.
It can sneak up on you. So that situational awareness of being able to be present, mindfulness even, of knowing what your opponents are doing, how close they are to victory, and being able to make decisions for your own that can inform accelerating your own plan. Like you were like, oh, I'm going to wait on this for a minute because I don't necessarily need to do it now, and it might paint a target on me if I do it now. I'm going to wait another turn or two, let people kind of burn a couple of their resources off. So, oh my god, I have to go. Right? So
Well-
I think it's a skill that is somewhat understated, that has a lot of real world implications. That whole idea of like, hey, read the room. Like being aware of the people and the things in the room that you are in.
Well, but it's more than that, because again, when as we start and continue to talk about more and more games as time goes by, one of the biggest things that we will always talk about, it's actually kind of a running gag within the Bodhana cast, is the idea that we'll say critical thinking games, right? And people will say, don't all games have critical thinking? Yeah, then James has left the building. Yeah, all games have critical thinking. However, if you look at games like straight up Euros, if you're looking at something like Wingspan or something that's like an engine builder, there's some messing that you could do with another person, but that gaming experience, some people actually come down on Villainous because they're like, well, where's the interactivity between players? And I'm like, you're the same person that complains about why more games aren't like Euros, which literally is like, no, wait a minute. The act of following your strategy plus other people's strategy is highly, highly important because it develops a lot of executive functioning skills. It develops not only that kind of awareness of what the table presence is as far as like what everybody's doing, there's a lot of computation that goes into that. And it's not like complex math or anything of that sort, but you have to look at, okay, knowing what my opponent wants to do, and is there an advantage of playing this game more than one time? Yeah, definitely. Because, James, having played it more times than I, he can know, oh, Jack has to do this with his character. He's through this deck. He hasn't gotten to this far. Again, also because James has that kind of mind for computation in board games. It makes for an interesting experience, not even discussing the whole idea of the expansions and all the other different villains. Because we also got to think that one of the cool advantages to this game is that it does introduce people to a lot of different mechanics. Because a lot of these villain plots and schemes introduce different ways to look at components and different ways to look at a game. One is a collection mechanic. One is like a building. One is like an engine. So a lot of those things that we talk about, well, this game more focuses on blah, blah, blah. This game is actually a good intro game for a lot of people, I feel. One, because the IP is very engaging. The rules are simple. Getting into the mechanics are nice. But it actually affords people the opportunity to learn and play different styles of mechanics within a board game, which is just great for an ambassador game, which typically IPs are very good to do, especially something like Disney, right, James?
Yeah, very much so. Disney is super accessible, very available to all sorts of folks. Used to be that Disney would, and I'm even talking all the way back to clamshell VHS. Like Disney would release one of their movies, and then they would be like, "You better buy it now before it goes in the vault." Right? And then everybody went, "Oh my god, I don't want to miss out before it goes to the vault." So everybody bought their copy of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, even if they didn't like it, because who knows when the vault's going to open back up? What if their kids never get to see it?
FOMO.
So now, with Disney Plus and streaming services, this stuff is very available. To be able to consume the media and then say, like, oh, here's this really cool game that's about the real heroes of the movies, which are the villains.
I wonder, James, if the Disney Vault just sat dormant for so long that it developed AI sentience. So really, there's no one behind Disney Plus. It is its own. It's like Skynet now.
I kind of think that maybe the Disney Vault, at some point was just a hellmouth, and they had hired like a Slayer type person to yeah. Cymbal crashing Mickey? Yeah, Hellmouth. Make a lot of Buffy references. So, what else does this game do that's really great, Jack? It's the second time my brain shut down in the middle of a sentence tonight.
No trouble. Yeah, I'm going through our 8 heroes that you can see on the Bodhana group website and different skill areas for gaming. It definitely works on resilience because you could be working up to a great plan. You're snowballing, getting your thing going, and then all of a sudden the player hits just the right fate card and your plans are torn asunder. So it's a great game for resilience. Again, resilience, critical thinking, definitely. I mean, I don't think there's really creativity or expression.
No, and there's really not a social component outside of the natural socialization that you get from playing
doesn't
games.
focus on that.
So nothing for that. There's really, I mean, there might be
key areas.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a little bit of risk taking involved, but I don't feel like it's a core mechanic of the game. And that's one of the as Jack and I talk about this, and we talk about the Bodhana heroes of gaming, and we fit these into different therapeutic concepts. We only really want to focus on the ones for a game that we're talking about that have drive behind one of the core mechanics.
Yeah.
Right? Like if there's something that the game especially works on well, we'll discuss that thing.
Right.
But this game, outside of just being really cool, is, like Jack said, I think a really great ambassador game. This is a game that I would. My family's very different because they don't like games. The devil. I would take this to like a family gathering. People don't like necessarily play games, but you're not going to be ostracized for bringing one. Just set it up on the table.
Your family is different.
Yeah, you can probably snare.
Get out of here with your crazy board games, Jack and Jen. It happens.
Yeah, you.
No, you will play Splendor, and then they go, "Oh, that was really fun, right?" So next week I'll bring Twilight Imperium.
Yeah. I don't know why
I got you now.
I don't know why you didn't bring this game to one of our functions before. Well, let me detail the reasons, Aunt Esther.
Yeah,
and why this was a thing.
You got 45 minutes. But no, you're right. It's a very solid, staunch recommend. It's a very easily accessible game. You can get it anywhere. Of course, Bodhana, we always advocate that given the opportunity, if you have an FLGS, friendly local game store nearby, we always advocate that you go there first, support small brick and mortar. They are the cornerstone of our hobby, and they are our sanctuaries when people drive us nuts. So please, if you have an FLGS, support them. If not, Amazon to your heart's delight. But this one also is available.
Make sure that you use Amazon Smile and make sure
Yes.
that you support on Amazon Smile a charity of your choice.
Perhaps the Bodhana group, James?
Maybe the Bodhana group. Yeah. What a wonderful group of people they are.
We are wonderful.
We cater to all sorts of individuals for all of their gaming and mental health and skill building needs. Speaking of all kinds of health, we should probably talk about the next thing we're going to talk about, eh?
Our next segment, hey?
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to introduce another segment for the Bodhana cast. This particular segment is called Couch Co-op.
Hey!
Occasionally, Jack and I are going to discuss and talk through, and this is probably going to mostly be led by me for this particular episode.
You're not wrong.
We're gonna talk
I haven't
through.
seen a lot of these.
If you were on your couch, let's picture it. Maybe some of you are now, right?
Picture it. Sicily.
1742. I don't know if that's an important year in Sicily's history. I have no idea what's going on in 1742. Viticulture. So in couch co-op, picture yourself on the couch, and you're about to stream a particular, like, episodic show of some type. And we may throw movies in here as we go, but I'm going to try to use more episodic type stuff wherever I can, because we do a lot of binging nowadays. Because we're home a little more, I think, for the most part.
You don't say.
I mean, for as much as we wanted to get out of our houses over the past, year and a half, 2 years, as we start to get the opportunity to do it, I think people have gotten comfortable with still going out, but then still just I feel safe here. So streaming services obviously have taken off like gangbusters, but Couch Co-op is not about sharing these streaming services with just your kids or your significant other doing some Netflix and chill. No. Couch Co-op can be about anything. And tonight, our first inaugural Bodhana cast, we are going to introduce our first Couch Co-op segment that is all about things that you can stream to watch with the ghost that haunts your house. Because ghosts, if they're haunting your home, it is entirely likely that when you came home and you found that pile of books stacked symmetrically in the corner of your home,
like the
when you found
the mass turbulence of 1947.
Right. Oh, human being would stack books this way. The chairs are all sitting in weird positions. Guys, that's not because the ghost wants you to get out of the house. That's because the ghost is bored. This is a cry for help. Okay, the ghost is stuck. It has unfinished business. While it is trying to finish that unfinished business, perhaps you can pass some of the time sharing some entertainment.
Update your Peacock password.
Good idea. Thank you, Batman.
Thanks, Batman.
So on your couch on the docket today, you've sat down to stream with your haunt buddy, the person, he or she or it that has taken up residence in your home, that just won't or can't leave, and some things that you can watch together to maybe make the ghost feel a little more at home and maybe be a little more motivated after they've relaxed to really stop procrastinating and get to that business, because showers are still creepy.
Hey,
So,
if they're a poltergeist, they could do the dishes with their telekinetic powers. That's all I'm saying. Contribute a little.
man.
You're feeding off my fear. At least give back a little.
But tonight, for Couch Co-op, I have a couple of suggestions for things that you can watch with the ghost that haunts your home. And the first one, this might seem a little on the nose, But I really enjoy this. It is a brand new show that started this season on CBS called Ghosts. This is a sitcom. They're half-hour episodes. It's available both, like, if you have a cable subscription, it's available on demand, or if you have Paramount Plus, you can stream it off of Paramount Plus because they are formerly CBS All Access, and this does air on CBS. The show Ghosts is a supernatural sitcom. The episodes are 30 minutes minus commercials, about like 23 minutes. They are 8 episodes into the first season, with the 8th episode having aired this week. Debuted in October. Notable cast members that are in the show. The lead is played by Rose McIver, who was she was also the lead in iZombie. Other folks, Utkarsh Ambudkar, he's done like some comedy stuff. Specifically, he was in Free Guy recently, and was
Nice.
he was in the movie Blind Spotting that came out several years ago.
A sequel
He
to Train
is
Spotting.
Yes. They just, like, in Train Spotting, they were just like, oh, the train, isn't it? Oh, that's another train. And now, like, this one, they do it, but they close their eyes when they're doing it. Also, Devin Long, who is probably, like, my favorite ghost character in the show. Devin Long was Flex Mentallo on Doom Patrol.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and was also has also been a character on the new Nathan Fillion cop drama, The Rookie. And then Rebecca Wysocki, she's another one of the ghost characters. She was the one of the police, like, lieutenant, captain, commissioner people on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And she was, I think it was last season, she was on The Sinner. So folks done some stuff. Here's the quick synopsis of the show. Rose McIver and Utkarsh's characters are a married couple that come to the country because they have been Rose's character has been left this country mansion, like, big house, and it's in disrepair. It's kind of a mess. But they go out there with the expectation that, like, at least the husband is like, well, we're just gonna dump this thing off and find a buyer, and then, oh, good, we'll go back to the city. And she's all like, oh my god, we could turn it into a bed and breakfast. It would be so great. And he's like, I have to live here. The show is punctuated by a group of 6 to 7 ghosts from different time periods that have all died on the property or in the house. At one point, it was a camp for, like, the Revolutionary War, before there was a house there. So one of the people that's there is a dead commanding officer from one of the Revolutionary War armies that might be gay. And it makes a lot of, like, side commentary about it, and everybody else but him knows it and has said it out loud at this point, like, except for him. There's a Native American ghost. There's actually, my favorite one, Devin Long's character, is a Viking that just talks loudly the whole time. So all of these dead people are at this house, and when main characters arrive, they're like, oh god, they're gonna take over. Now we're gonna have to put up with these people. So they try to Beetlejuice it. right? And they're like, oh my God, we could haunt them and just scare them out of the house. Except that none of the ghosts can physically touch anything. Right? They're not those kinds of ghosts. They're trying to figure out, and there's like one guy that is able to extend his spirit to sort of move stuff a little bit. So there's these wonderful scenes where like this dude is like gritting his teeth and he's like, "Ah!" And then the camera will flip to where you don't see the ghosts and it's just completely quiet, and you see this vase kind of like move a quarter of an inch. No, but this guy acts like he's pushing a train with his bare hands, trying to get this thing to go. But what happens in the show, and I'm doing this as spoiler free as I can. Rose McIver's character has a personal accident in the house, ends up with some head trauma, ends up with a bump on the head, and through her near death experience, because there's a little more than a bump on the head, through this experience that she had, she can now see and talk to them. So where they've just been willy-nilly going around the house, doing whatever and saying whatever they want, now they find out that she can hear and speak to them. Now they start dumping all of their crap on her because she is the first living person they have ever been able to talk to inside the house. And one of the reasons I picked this was because one of the running gags in the show is the fact that she has to leave the TV on for them. And she leaves because it's the only way they get to catch up on any of the current shows. Viking, in particular, with the Native American ghost, really get into this like Bachelorette style show called It's Hot in Here, where all of the participants show up at the beginning of the reality show, and over the course of the season, they're covered in like parkas and thick coats, like it's super, super hot. And they just turn the heat up in the apartments over the course of so many weeks, and these people eventually like take off all of their clothing. And it's about finding true love while not judging what somebody really looks like. Like,
Hey, that reminds me, you shouldn't leave your TV on so loud. The creep down the hall phone the manager. I tried to get on the ledge and disconnect the cable, but I couldn't get in, so I turned on my TV really loud too, so everybody would think they're both our TVs had something wrong with them.
yeah, so when I looked up some of the info for Ghosts, I actually found the BBC version of Ghosts. And I had no
It's
idea
another one
that
we
even...
stole.
Yeah, I had no idea that even existed. It's on HBO Max, and I might check that out.
Weird fun fact, James. Most of our most like memorable and successful TV properties over the years were actually ones that we directly ripped from British television, like All in the Family.
Brits know what they're doing, man.
Well, absolutely, but it's really weird that when we try to just steal it wholesale, it doesn't work. Like they tried running like certain Doctor Who properties or IT Crowd, they tried and it just didn't work at all. But like when it's altered just a little bit, it like All in the Family, and it's probably one of the biggest kind of versions. But yeah, a lot of great stuff.
So Ghosts, it's currently running. You should still be able to get all the episodes on demand. Paramount Plus, if you have that service, you can definitely get all of the episodes there. So that's one that, I mean, you can definitely, if you just want to talk to your ghost, and find out, like, hey, what do you want to watch today? This might be one to do. The next one that I have on the list has a very like special place for me because of the lead actor, because I just think he's a wonderful, wonderful human being. And I love most of everything that he's done. My wife and I are huge fans. Maybe one day he'll see this show and he'll be like, "Oh." That's really all I would expect. It's a show called Deadbeat. It's on Hulu. This is one of those like hidden gems that you sometimes find on streaming services. My wife and I were cycling through, and we happened to see our guy, Tyler Labine, on the front of it, looking like Demi Moore from Ghost, like making a weird pottery thing. And right behind him, draped over his shoulder, was Cal Penn from Harold and Kumar. And we went, oh, this is a thing. So, Deadbeat is a show on Hulu. It's another supernatural sitcom, but this is kind of like a procedural supernatural sitcom. They're 30-minute episodes, again about 23 minutes, with commercials. There are 3 seasons of the show, but that's it. Like, show was done after the 3rd season. It debuted in April of 2014, so about like 7 years old at this point. Starring Tyler Labine. He's been in tons of different things. If you remember that show Reaper that was out years ago, with the kid that had to like find souls that had escaped hell and put them back, and it was like a lineage type thing that he had to do it because his soul was sold to Satan. And it was going to, he had to send other souls back before his was collected. It was also very memorable for me in a absolutely terrible movie with Diedrich Bader years ago called Evil Alien Conquerors. Tyler Labine played this character named Kroger. It came from the alien world, and Kroger was sent to go and bring the aliens back when they refused to come. Kroger was used to being like 30 feet tall on the alien planet. When he came to Earth, he was like 5'4". He walked around like he was 30 feet tall. So like Tyler Labine performing this role would like it would like make the sound effects while he's walking, right? And like went into a fast food place looking for the aliens. They're like, "Oh, can I help you? Did you want to order something?" And he would talk really loudly because he thought he had to shout because of how tall he was. So he's like yelling, and it's even up at this guy, right? Like it just doesn't register with him. He's like, "You insult me! It would take 100 of your tiny meals to slake my gigantic hunger!" Ah! You know, like, it was so ridiculous, and I peed myself laughing at this dude. So then I started following him, and he was Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yeah.
Was I think he was Dale out of the two of them. He's in New Amsterdam. He's a wonderful actor. He does lots and lots of very cool things. Lucy DeVito from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and Leaves of Grass is a neat little movie with Edward Norton about growing weed. Pat Deely. This was interesting. Pat Deely is actually the hostess of So You Think You Can Dance. She's been like a producer on stuff. She doesn't have like a lot of well-known acting credits. And she plays a pretty pivotal role in the first 2 seasons of the show. And then of course Cal Penn, who doesn't come in until the 3rd season. But that one season is fantastic. So the way that the show goes, Tyler Labine is a complete waste of space, drugged out, like, burnout, procrastinating, lazy, all of those monikers. Also happens to be a medium. He knows he's a medium. He knows he can talk to ghosts. He does things to help ghosts pass on and move on to the next life. He is enamored by chamomile, not the tea, but a woman who is like the TV professional psychic medium. She's the one that gathers 30 people in a room and then talks to them and just uses her ability to read people to make it look like she's a psychic. he gets the idea from his burnout friends that he should start getting paid to go and like do medium things. And for the first season, like he ends up taking, tacos as pay, and like weird stuff like that, like just to get through to the next day. Okay. And it's him starting to take things more seriously as the show goes on, and like, I could make a thing about this. But the episodes are really wonderfully crafted. They're really entertaining. One that I was telling Crimson about earlier today, he has to help a ghost that's like, a young man that passed away before he could have that like one special night with his lady. And because of the time that he died, he tracked down the lady, and the lady's like 60 at this point. And, he gets the lady to believe that, he's talking to this old love of hers. And for this kid to pass on, he needs to have that special night. So Lebine's character basically lets this kid possess him and then keep it
Awkward.
with this old woman.
Wow.
So that he can experience it, and then the ghost passes on. Like just these weird, comedic things that they do throughout the show. But then there's an actual narrative, that goes through the show too. So it's really entertaining, surprisingly entertaining for being just this quiet little like, oh, by the way, this is also on Hulu. So yeah, I check that out. You and your ghost pal. You'll thank me. At least you will. I don't know unless you can hear what the ghost is saying.
Or whether or not you can hear what the ghost pal is saying.
Yeah.
That would be important as well.
I'm gonna reverse the order of the next two. So not to give your ghost any ideas, but honestly just a classic style like horror drama, scary, spooky show. Netflix, there's a couple of these that have been done by the same guy. But the first one, The Haunting of Hill House. 10 episodes. It was kind of like just its own story. There's one season to it. There's also been The Haunting of Bly Manor, and recently Midnight Mass. They're done by basically the same team. It's almost kind of like American Horror Story, where these are like the same camp of actors and actresses, but they do very different stories on Netflix. Haunting of Hill House is just a classic ghost story, but it's told really well with some very real themes to it. There's the all of the secrets that come out about this family and the things that they struggle with around the fact that they had this very traumatic event in this house that was haunted, that some of them have buried the memory happened. Some of them were not able to get past it, the different ways that they've dealt with it over the course of time, and add in the horror elements of, showing and experiencing the haunt. So there's something for everybody that enjoys horror and drama in this show. It debuted in October of 2018. It's available on Netflix. It was a Netflix only. The episodes are all 1 hour long. They're about I think you pronounce his name Michiel Huisman from Treme and Game of Thrones. Played Dario Naharis in Game of Thrones. Carla Gugino, who you would actually recognize as the Silk Spectre from Watchmen.
Oh.
Yeah, Carla Gugino. She's also in San Andreas. Also, another very familiar name, Henry Thomas.
Oh, of E.T. Yeah.
Yeah, also Suicide
Where's that
King
guy
and
been?
a whole bunch of other stuff. And then Elizabeth Reeser, who was one of the Cullen family from Twilight. and was in a couple of other horror type stuff like Ouija, Origin of Evil, stuff like that. This group of characters, this group of actors and actresses has done all three of the different types of shows that this guy has produced. Haunting of Hill House specifically, just like I said, deals with a family that experienced the trauma of a haunt, the losses that they experienced, and years later they have to deal with another traumatic event that brings back memories of that place, and then end up having to deal with a lot of the things that you find out these characters have actually been running from for quite some time. There's a lot of different, very mature themes, that takes place. Over the course of the show, and all three of these, I think Midnight Mass in particular, but that's not the focus here, so I don't want to really get into it because I will talk about Midnight Mass for days. All three of these things are beautifully acted. They're just wonderful story pieces. And another one at the last one that I want to bring up, at the risk of talking about another thing that I could talk about for days. If you are watching something with a ghost, I would be remiss if you didn't watch a show that might tell the ghost, hey, in case you get rowdy, I know how to put you in your place because I can load a shotgun with salt and I will burn and salt the remains because that is what Sam and Dean Winchester taught me how to do. Supernatural.
Yeah.
Supernatural is probably the only show that I have ever watched, and I watched it along with when it aired. I didn't have to binge 9 seasons to catch up. Supernatural had 15 seasons, and for probably 10 of them, I kept saying at the end of that season, I don't know where this is gonna go. There's no way they can come back next year. This has got to be it.
Yeah.
And they're like,
He's
and
in
now we
hell.
announced season 9. I'm like, and I'm wrong. And there there were ups and downs. Any show that I think goes on for 15 seasons, there's gonna be some lows.
Yeah.
But overall, the and something was just mentioned in the chat that I want to completely agree with and echo. The first 5 seasons were meant originally to be the end of the show. Season 5 was supposed to be it. They did the same thing with Supernatural that they did with Buffy, and I think it's a CW thing. Season 5 ended, and then they were like, but would you do more? No, so they had to come up with a way to keep the show going, and then they just kept coming up with ways to keep it going, and they still found really, really interesting ways to make it fun and make it cool and make it original 11 seasons in. This show has one of the most meta episodes I have ever seen in a TV show, where Sam and Dean are chasing something, and they go through like a portal, like a time thing, and they end up on the set of Supernatural, and it's Sam and Dean playing Jared Padalecki and
Jensen
oh my god,
Ackles.
Jensen Ackles. Jesus, thank you. And it's the two of them playing the actors that they are performing Supernatural. Just and the showrunners are there, and some of the other actors are there, outside of their character. The whole show is brilliant. If you haven't seen any of it,
That's a shame if you haven't seen any of it.
You've got some TV to watch, if that's the case. The last season of the show is going to be available on Netflix at the end of this month. But Netflix will have all 15 seasons. I don't know how long that's going to last. Generally, when they have shows like that and they're popular, they keep them, but sometimes you don't know. But you can stream it on Netflix right now. Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles, obviously the two main characters, Sam and Dean Winchester, a couple of the other more major characters, Misha Collins. Previously, like I sort of recognized him from the 1999 film Girl Interrupted. But he was also he played Elliot Ness in an episode of a NBC TV show called Timeless.
Wow.
Yeah, just
It's after
I just thought he was cool.
1997, so I don't know anything that exists.
Yeah, that's your kryptonite.
It's
I
my
know.
safety. Yeah, except I've seen Supernatural.
And
I
then
mean,
also a guy that some of us have met, Jim Beaver.
Rufus
was not Rufus.
Oh, Bobby. I'm sorry.
I
was thinking about Stephen Williams. Yeah, I know. Hey,
everybody that's a Supernatural fan just tuned us out.
So well, not every.
See?
Oh, no. Oh, jeez. I ruined it.
On you.
I'll go back to being quiet.
Jim Beaver, like, also really well known for his roles in both Breaking Bad and Deadwood. Is like kind of the surrogate father to the Winchester boys after their own father dies. But yeah, it's there's so much lore. No, it's two brothers that get into the family business of hunting and finding the creepy things that go bump in the night and making them stop bump.
Excellent show. Tremendous fan cult following, you know?
Mm-hmm. Myself included.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? And I should have worn my Castiel shirt. It's my fault.
Did you buy it at the Hot Topical?
No, I bought it at Memento Con. Where Supernatural fans should go.
Yes, they should. Most definitely. It's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
So those are some suggestions for things that are streaming right now. Some of them new, some of them old. Things that you can sit down with the spook, specter, or ghost that is in your home and say, "Hey,
you,
let's have some fun.
Get over here. Watch this show with me." Right?
Hey.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And that brings us, folks, to our last segment of the evening. Before we bid you adieu.
Do what?
Adieu about nothing.
There's much to that.
Yeah, for days. This last segment, since we're doing a lot of talking about shows and streaming, and like we said, we're really excited about Ghostbusters. I'm gonna make Jack wait a little bit though, because I think we should we should close with it.
All right.
Close with it. Okay. Folks,
I want to weigh in on something, man.
Popcorn. Get your popcorn. Jack and I are going to tell you about things that are in the theater right now. New things. This is weird for Jack because I'm going to make him sort of keep up with new things that are in the theater. We have gone together to see a couple of the things I'm going to talk about tonight, and a couple of them I don't know if he has seen at all. I'm going to, because Jack has asked me to, keep these spoiler free.
Please.
Anyway, so I have a couple of things on the docket tonight that we're going to tell you about that are current in the theater, current stuff, things that you can see. And some of them are also because of the deal that HBO Max has done with Warner Brothers, or just the fact that HBO Max is streaming all of the Warner Brothers stuff. The Warner Brothers movies come out same day and are on HBO Max for 1 month. That you can watch the movie at home because the global bastard COVID. So, and the first one that I want to talk about is actually one that is streaming on HBO Max, probably not for much longer, but really caused quite an issue over the course of this year with Warner Brothers and HBO Max, and that is part one of a story that is I just love Dune. Dune, if you've seen the old like David Lynch Dune
Was that
with
80? Was that 82?
82 or 83, leather underwear sting. Usually the thing that I say that people go, "Oh yeah, I remember that."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The David Lynch one, for all of the crap that it gets, I honestly really I liked David Lynch Dune for a lot of different reasons. One, because it was the only way for me to be able to see anything Dune related on any kind of media other than reading the Frank Herbert book again. Such quotable lines. You know, it's in the box. Pain. Tooth. Remember the tooth. Sleeper has awakened. So, because Muad'Dib no longer needs the weirding module, we're going to take a look at the new Denis Villeneuve Dune. Villeneuve most recently directed the Blade Runner 2049 that came out. He also directed Sicario, which kind of low key, but not really. Great action movie. Just really great movie in general. Also because Benicio del Toro is one of the main characters, and you really should have more of him in your life if you don't. Some of the main characters that are in it, Timothée Chalamet plays Paul Atreides. He was in a couple years ago. There was a independent film that made it to some of the theaters in this area called Beautiful Boy. He was also in Little Women, the movie adaptation of Little Women. He's becoming like more and more of like a household name. A lot of it is going to be attributed to his performance as Paul Atreides in Dune. Rebecca Ferguson, who plays Paul's mother, Lady Jessica. She was the villain in Doctor Sleep, the Shining sequel. And then she was also one of the main characters in The Greatest Showman, the musical thing that came out with Wolverine. Jackman. His name's not Wolverine. Who could forget Jason Momoa?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason Momoa is fantastic in this. He is like super hardcore. They gave him some really wonderful scenes. Also, Josh Brolin, Thanos, and also like one of it's not my favorite movie, but has some of my favorite actors in it, and is like truly an excellent film. No Country for Old Men. Because another great actor, one of my favorite actors, Javier Bardem. Is
No
in that.
Country for
Also,
Old Men, right?
yes, he's the villain in No Country for Old Men. Javier Bardem, also in Dune.
The old one? In
the current one, yeah. He plays Stilgar, one of the chieftains of the Fremen.
Gotcha.
So the movie runs like 2 hours and 35 minutes. I'm going to tell you right now, the movie stopped. I could have watched another like 3 hours of this and I wouldn't have cared. But like I turned around and one of my friends went with me. Which I'm going to go ahead and, even though they don't give us any money or plug anything for us, Regal Cinemas has a like a membership card that you pay like $20 a month, and you can
Hashtag sponsor us.
just go to movies at Regal whenever you want to go to movies. I have it. I pay for it. It's one of the best things I have. Like movies, going to movies is like going to church for me. It's just where I'm happy, where I'm comfortable, where I can be quiet, where I can chill out, and just kind of forget what's going on outside of that auditorium door for a little while. My dad instilled that in me, and that's like it's just one of my favorite places to be. Not being able to go to the theater during the pandemic was heartbreaking
Yes,
for me.
yeah,
but
that was clearly apparent.
having this membership, like I've fully like just gone back to theaters to see things. Dune, even though it is available on HBO Max, I am going to tell you, if you are at all comfortable, and please, I hope that, I don't want to start anything political. I hope you're vaccinated, get your shot, do all of those things. It's not about us. It's about everybody else.
Yeah.
Go to a theater, see this. This needs to be seen in a theater. You need to experience this on a big screen. The breadth, scope of Arrakis, the appearance of, and it's mainly just teeth, like the first couple of times, but like the first time that you get to see Shai Hulud, it's magnificent. The movie is incredibly well written, well performed. They casted this. I don't think they could have done any better. I loved Skarsgård as Baron Vladimir Harkonnen.
Their second Skarsgård appearance tonight.
Yep. Well, the first one was Cardguard.
Oh, that's right.
It sounded like Skarsgård. I could see how you got confused.
Yeah, that is truth.
Peter Skarsgård, the old Skarsgård.
The old guard Skarsgård.
Yeah, the old guard Skarsgård. Playing Vladimir Harkonnen. From the original, like, David Lynch Dune, they really played up the, like, pockmarked, like, oil-infested, disgusting, like, appearance nature of Harkonnen. Boy, did they really nail the visuals for this movie of the Atreides living on this, like, lush jungle world, and then you get to see Gidi Prime, where the Harkonnens are from, and it's this just techno nightmare realm, where it's very bleak, and Baron Harkonnen he's bald, and he's a massive dude, like he's big, but they did this really cool thing where you can see like these things light up on his spine. When he needs to move, he's basically like cybernetically enhanced to be able to float, and get around. But his characterization was awesome. There are a couple of things in the movie that, like, if you haven't read the books or even seen like the David Lynch version, don't get. The fact that Thufir, for House Atreides, and then the character that, I don't know why I can't remember this, the one that Brad Dourif played in the David Lynch version, these guys that are mentats. They don't really describe what these people are or what they do. This dude just rolls up on Paul as they get to Arrakis, and he just starts spitting out all of these like facts and figures, and compliments of people, like all this mathematic knowledge and like just this uber accountant. That's what the mentats do. Like they're walking he's walking like lightning human calculators.
Okay.
You have no idea what they are or why they're significant in this movie. Like I kind of get it. I understand it. They needed time to get to stuff, but you
Well,
also have a couple of movies to do, so maybe give a little bit of insight.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, you know that there's an absolute ton of lore to this IP. How, do you think it's possible for someone to get lost
Oh yeah.
easily in this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The story is paced really well because they know they don't have to shove all of this into one film.
They can.
Like they're very aware. They made the conscious decision before they even started the project that this was going to be more than one movie. I think because they called it Dune, they didn't specifically say Dune Part 1. At the end of this movie, there's people that have that like Infinity War thing of like, oh my god, that was it? You are
Yeah.
like throwing popcorn bags at the screen and everything. Like, I even in the theater that I was in, there were a couple of people that were like, "What the heck?" Because of the way that it ends. Because it doesn't
Right.
really end. No, but I said, like I turned around to my buddy. I was like, dude, I don't even know what time it is, and I don't care.
Nice.
Because this like sucked in from the start.
So, high recommend then.
Yeah, super high recommend. I can't recommend it enough. If you have to watch it at home, cool, do it. Absolutely watch the movie. If you can at all go to a theater, that's where that needs to happen. The next one I want to talk about, and then I think Jack is going to be able to be a lot more vocal following the next two here.
I was actually going to say I need to step away for a second. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, just very, very brief. I have to get natural, as it were. So,
Oh my god.
are you going to talk about
Antlers.
Yes.
Let's talk about Antlers.
Yes.
So, really love horror movies. I love going to see horror movies in the theater. I love going to see horror movies with empty seats behind me so that sometimes I think about what might be there while I'm watching them, and it helps the creep factor. So I was really excited to go see this movie, Antlers, because it seemed like and it felt like it was going to be something different. It was directed by Scott Cooper. It was weird because a lot of the stuff that he's done has been, like drama, kind of actiony, Black Mass with Johnny Depp, bald Johnny Depp, Out of the Furnace, which had Christian Bale. So a couple of kind of heavy drama action films, and then here comes this urban legend horror story, and I'm like, cool. So Carrie Russell, The Americans, I don't remember the name of the character with the wife from The Americans. Jesse Plemons, who's had like a couple of minor to middle roles. He was in The Irishman on Netflix. And also that stupid Battleship movie, because we needed that. So he was in that stuff. The kid in the movie, Jeremy T. Thomas, is in Amazon Prime's Lore, which is a decent show if you haven't checked it out. It's just about legends and lore and kind of serializing a lot of those stories, and a wonderful comedy on HBO Max called The Righteous Gemstones, about pastors and the whole idea of come to Jesus, that kind of thing. And then finally, because it was dealing with Native American subject material, they needed somebody that could do it justice. So you bring in Graham Greene. He was in Maverick. Dances with Wolves. He's had a lot of parts over the years, saying we need a Native American actor to do this thing. Oh, there's Graham Greene. So it was released October 29th of this year, so it came out right at Halloween time. Obviously rated R. It's a little over an hour and a half, hour and 39 minutes in total. Synopsis is basically that the movie gives its take on the legend of the Wendigo, this insatiable, ravenous creature that just needs to feed. And it's a really quiet town in, I think if I'm remembering correctly, Oregon. There is a kid that is presenting with some issues at school, but hiding a terrible secret. And the unraveling of that secret eventually, releases this terrible thing upon some of the more curious members of the town. That is as non-spoilery as I can get about the synopsis of the film. Now, lore is excellent in this. The kind of the backstory or the legend that they create around the Wendigo is really cool. After seeing it, I have not seen the new Halloween movie yet, but it's on Peacock and it is so on my list to watch. I do need to watch that. I've been a bad horror fan that I haven't watched that yet. So the lore is really good. That's about the best thing I can say about this. After it was over, the word that we used to describe this movie was brutal. It really is. It is unapologetically brutal. I had a lot of problems with this movie revolving around the handling of public services and child protective services for the kid in the movie. Just the way that things were presented and the way that they were handled. You know that it's a quiet small town. I get it. I can suspend a certain amount of things, but this is going to illustrate my point. At one point, the cops go out to the house that this kid lives at. It's at night. The door is locked. They can't open it. But one of the cops comments while standing on the porch, "Man, this place smells like death." We're here because this kid has been having issues, weird drawings. The teacher thinks there's something going on. Some of the adults are worried. The kid's father is a known, from the mouth of the cops, a known drug user. And they're afraid that they're just going to find out one day that the guy fell asleep with a needle in his arm and he died, and the kids are are still in the house and have to fend for themselves, and they're talking about all these things. So they go to this kid's house. Lights aren't on. The door is locked. They comment that it smells like death. The very next line that gets uttered is, Yeah, we're gonna come back tomorrow with a warrant.
Wow. Yeah, I know there's some lapse in service in certain programs,
No,
but
not even come back with a warrant. It
Wow.
was, well, let's come back tomorrow after we get a warrant. Like, what?
wow.
What are you? What? What? And like that's not the only. That's not the only example of this that I can point out during this movie. It was just a lot of bad that I like. Really have. I've talked about this a lot, and I think it's because I'm just really agitated. I was excited to see this, and I was so pulled out of the movie experience by the handling of like how I'm a foster parent. I got trained as a foster parent. I've had 2 foster children. I adopted both of them. Like I've been in this system. I know how this is supposed to work. Right? Like teachers and principals and other public workers are mandated reporters. Whereas like this should not have gone nearly as far as it did. And I just could not. It would give a joke among our group of moments in movies that are called Godzilla glass moments. It
This is a
refers
good
to
story. Yeah.
it refers to one of our friends' inability to like
Who you're
just
gonna meet
enjoy.
in future episodes.
Eventually
of
you
the
will meet,
Bodhana
yeah.
Cast. Yes.
It interferes with someone's ability to just enjoy a movie for what it is. Because during the movie Godzilla, this friend of ours, when Godzilla first appears and his foot comes down, and this is the newest Godzilla, the Bryan Cranston Godzilla, when you see the foot come down at the airport, it comes down, it shakes, there's all this sound, but not one of the window panes in the airport like blows out or like gets cracked or anything else. Like nothing got damaged. But then every other time that he moves, there's like massive destruction throughout the whole thing. So he called it this Godzilla glass moment where the glass didn't shatter and he wasn't able to enjoy the film because it took him out of the moment. I had almost an entire movie of Godzilla glass moments watching this movie. Like I just couldn't do it. On top of the fact that the movie is just brutal. There are a couple of redeeming qualities, but it is not enough, like, for me, like, just to redeem the overall representation of the situation in the film. Horror movies are supposed to have, like, I think probably a special level of disbelief, but I just couldn't summon it for this one.
No, that
wasn't.
Well, I special level of disbelief, and I know it wasn't one of the ones, but I know that Crimson had asked about this one in the chat about the new Halloween. I get you, dude. About like, because even with Halloween Kills, the latest Halloween, like, I get it. Michael Myers is a force. Michael Myers is like a thing. That movie angered me so badly. For the
You
exact
don't
same
really
reason.
like horror to begin with. I'm even surprised you watched that.
Well, no, I make exceptions with Halloween, Friday the 13th. I can't do Freddy. Freddy and those are too terrifying for me. But Friday the 13th.
Is that because it scares you with your dreams?
Yes, it's too, and part of it is like body horror stuff, because there's a lot of that in a lot of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, and I'm like, check please. But no, with Halloween Kills, it's like, this is the night Michael Myers dies, so we're gonna get a mob together to go out and kill him.
Good plan.
But the first thing as a mob we're gonna do is split up.
That is great.
It's horrifying. No, don't do that.
That's a different tactic.
Right. So yeah, I know that it's all about the kills. Yeah, even the kills, in my opinion, were kind of subpar. But I know we're not here to talk about Halloween Kills. But I see what you mean.
So, yeah, Antlers was a really cool idea. The lore was good, but it did not have a good foundation for me to believe any of the instances that would have led to, the events in the second and third acts.
Was it like a Shazam moment?
Yeah, it was very much that
Yeah.
whole that whole movie was a giant Shazam moment.
Yeah,
Um,
we're talking about in Shazam. Same thing about Child Protective Service. Like a mother leaves child at carnival, police find child, and it's not like, well, I don't know. I guess he flew in from Japan to come here. I mean, there's just no way in hell we could find someone at a local carnival. Oh, we know this
sure hope
kid's
he
last
finds his
name.
mom someday.
Yeah, wow, maybe he'll become a superhero and make that easier or something. But yeah, it was, and that was like, oh my god, just little moments like that. That's not how social services works. No, absolutely.
So not even a meh. Like I could not watch this movie again.
Would you
There's
recommend
no
it
way.
to force an enemy to watch it?
Yeah, I would reverse MST3K somebody the shit out of this.
All right, fair enough.
They're
fair
not
enough.
allowed to have robots. And they can't make fun of it. And they're strapped down on the chair. And their eyes are being held open by a
Eco
Rick
technique.
by a Rick cosplayer. That's doing it like, Rick and Morty style where he does the
What
said
in the-
enemies,
my
man. I'm
lord.
just going as
Oh no,
as
that's
hard
true.
as I
set
can.
that one up by saying enemies.
So Jack, why don't we
Yeah.
talk about something that you can talk about? Because I know you have some opinions about it.
Particle physics.
Let's talk about the Eternals. We're gonna switch
Oh.
over to the latest MCU offering.
Oh, you done did it, Wanda.
So,
Uh,
director
Yeah.
of the Eternals, Chloe Zhao, probably most notably known for Nomadland. Also, songs my brothers taught me. I went by top build cast. I want everybody to know this. This is not like these are the people I think are the most important, but like just the
Or here's all 10 main characters in the Eternals. All of them.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of people in this movie.
Gemma Chan, who plays Circe, also in Crazy Rich Asians, and lent her voice talents to Disney's Raya and the Last Dragon,
Oh.
which is another Disney animated that honestly, if you haven't seen Raya and the Last Dragon, it is absolutely worth watching.
Nice.
Really fun, really cool movie. Richard Madden, who, if you've watched Game of Thrones, you will remember as the eldest Stark son, Robb. He also played Prince Charming in the live-action Cinderella, or you could just call it Cinderella.
I'd like to
course-
see John Carpenter's Cinderella because he has to put his name in the front of everything.
John Carpenter's Cinderella, in which John Carpenter composes all of the music and plays the band conductor as John
It's all
Carpenter.
Syntherella.
Um,
Ooh, we're writing a movie now.
John Carpenter, legendary. Angelina Jolie, obviously. Maleficent, Wanted. One of my I'm not like a huge Angelina Jolie fan, but honestly, like one of my favorite movies with her is Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Oh yeah.
With her and Brad Pitt. God, that is just a wonderfully funny movie.
Yes. The remake actually.
And then Kumail Nanjiani, whom I had experienced first in Franklin and Bash. It was a sitcom show that was on TBS.
Wow.
I want to say, or TNT. It was lawyers. One of which was Zach from Saved by the Bell. And
Ring, ring.
yeah, Kumail was their basically like their assistant. He was also in a movie with Dave Bautista where he played a cowardly taxi driver called Stuber. So Like um those are just like the main characters. But Jack, why don't you kind of surmise Eternals?
Well, I mean, it's one of the latest It is the latest installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, it
Means
kind of
it's connected to everything.
everything, including Mephisto, who hasn't shown up yet, but we're all expecting him anytime now. Yeah, it's
We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out that Stan Lee was actually Mephisto. All of his cameos were like just
all of them.
Mephisto showing up in all of the movies to be like, I'm just watching all of this take place.
Yeah, spreading evil. Whether it's DJ, well, if you look to it, I mean, the thing about this, and again, this movie's getting a lot of flack from people for a number of different reasons, most of them stupid. Yeah, I'll be that honest about it. I'm very unabashed when I talk about movie reviews and my feelings on critics in general, which is ironic that I'm critiquing a movie. But
Get him, Jack, Dave.
yeah, so yes, Eternals it's a movie, another chance that Marvel took. Similarly, in the vein of Guardians of the Galaxy, where they went with a property that wasn't as well known as your Captain Americas, your Hulks, Avengers, Doctor Strange, what have you. And it's telling a different kind of story. This is not a large action set piece kind of movie. It is a tale about Eternals, who are, immortal beings who are here kind of monitoring over the Earth. And again, we said no spoilers on the review, but it's basically talks about all of their tribes and tribulations over time, and I personally found it very incredibly engaging because I like that this movie got cosmic, for lack of a better descriptive term, right? Like I know we kind of got cosmic with like the Infinity Stones and all that kind of stuff, but this movie really did a great job for me of being very philosophical, very thought inspiring about the nature of man.
Can I ask you, what does it mean to get cosmic? Because Ving Rhames helped me to understand what getting medieval meant. And I'm just like I'm curious about like how did you learn
To get
like
cosmic?
get cosmic and what exactly does that entail?
It's
do you
sideways.
need a gimp?
No, it's sideways related to getting crunk, but not exactly. It's very loosely not connected to got milk. Got the funk, got the fever.
So
I don't
okay, so
know.
I can get crunk with like a milk mustache, and that's
Yes, you
getting
can.
cosmic.
It is also funky too. I've heard.
Huh.
Yeah.
So I get crunk with a milk mustache, add in some George Clinton or some Earth, Wind, and Fire.
That can make actually George Clinton can make you quite cosmic. Depending on how you guys are partying.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. No, I say cosmic because it's talking about things on a much larger scale than, oh my God, the people of Earth. Like, it just talks about bigger questions that I think, personally, need to be asked. I think it asks a lot of great questions about the nature of humanity and the nature of, who we are as a species and how we've grown or not grown, etc. I like that aspect. To be honest, my favorite character at all was not an Eternal. It was Kingo's human companion, like his manager, producer guy.
Yeah, his little valet guy that had he was like constantly like always had a camera, even though like
Always
8 of
had a
them
camera.
get broken. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked his character the most, I felt, because it was a human perspective in this world of gods, right? And and again, some of the complaints are it's too long. There's too many characters to focus on any of them meaningfully, which I don't buy either, because there were certain characters. If you played a larger part in the eventual story, you were focused on a little bit more than the others. I don't think that means anybody got ripped off in terms of screen time. And the other thing that just makes me mad in general is that, oh my God, there are dudes kissing. Shut up. Just knock it off. Like, again, if I were one more person say, you're pushing your agenda on the rest of us, I don't know how I'm going to explode. but I will find a way to do so because it's just ridiculous. I told you I was gonna go nuts on this, James.
I just want to I just want to be there so that I can like guide you from the back and like point you where it needs to go when you do the exploding. That's really all I want to do.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, yeah, I mean, would you agree? Like, people are just like, "Whoa, it's the worst Marvel movie rated of all time," and I'm like, "Where's it rated? And did this hit like as the lowest rating? It's like in the high 60s or something."
so I think part of it is
Yeah, you're a Marvel guy, right?
well, I honestly for most of my middle to adulthood, I read a lot more DC than I did Marvel. I
And you're
read
wearing.
Marvel. I read Marvel when I was younger, up until the year after I was in college, and then I started
Okay.
getting exposed to a lot more DC, and then I kind of like fell off of the Marvel wagon and read a lot more DC. Now, had I known back in '98 that nearly all of the DC movies were going to suck something awful, I would have read a lot more Marvel.
Something awful
Um,
this way came.
and just stayed on that wagon. Um, but uh, yeah, I didn't know much of anything about these characters, even with my extensive comic knowledge.
Yeah.
These the Eternals are pretty much, to me, the Eternals are Marvel's version of the New Gods
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
in DC. Right, so this I enjoyed this because it was a story on a very grand scale, but told from the viewpoint of gods on Earth.
Yeah.
These heroes came at a time where they were very much looked on as gods, because of the powers that they wielded. And while they, over the course of time, did sort of inform on some of what has become our natural history, they very much had to stay out of the way. And it wouldn't have been a problem because it was assumed they wouldn't give a crap about the living creatures that were there, except that they learned how to. They found out that they could. And then the question became, should we do something? And they very staunchly held to that mandate of, like, we cannot interfere unless it has to do with our enemies. And I like that the reason that we haven't seen the Eternals as it comes up through the movie is not just tied to the fact that their enemies weren't present, right? That they had this mandate that they had to follow.
Right.
But at events that have taken place in the MCU sort of engineered it that we didn't need them.
Yeah,
Until now. Right? So
Yeah.
that I thought was really interesting too. And anybody that's a fan of comic books or that knows the character, like I went into this movie having seen the trailers, but having read or watched very little to nothing about it because I wanted to go into this blind. I don't have much of an opportunity when it comes to comic book movies or comic book properties to go into a movie blind. I have a fairly solid working knowledge of like what the crap is going on in the thing that we're about to watch. And with Eternals, I had this opportunity to not have that knowledge, and I took it. And that's why I had no idea that Kit Harington was playing Dane Whitman. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but
Holy crap.
in the middle, you kind of turned to me and you're like literally, you're in the scene. And you just kind of like went, "In Whitman." And initially, I'm like, currently, I have no idea who the hell that is. And then you kind of just turn over and you go, "Black Knight," and I went, "Oh, that's right." Like, we had this weird exchange in the theater where it's almost like, it's a cold day for pontooning. Cranes fly backwards in the dead of winter. Like we were done like some weird spy code or something between each other.
Wonderful weather we're having.
It is time for a warm, refreshing coffee.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Give me the
So I-
microchip. Destroy the negative. What?
I enjoyed a lot of the elements in this. I thought that it allowed them to introduce heroes that were made to sit on the bench. And how that
Yeah.
affected them, because it did affect them very differently
Well, it's-
over the course of time. Some of them found peace with it. Some of them found ways to grow with it. Some of them got very grumpy.
Is it weird that as gods in this movie, I found most of them more human than some of the other heroes that we've seen, who were large?
all.
I think they were larger in life, but in a very different way.
Not at
It's
all.
all kind of
That's-
like every day, and it's like, no, jealousy, rage, fear. A lot of these things. That was great.
Well, that's very much Marvel's motif, right? Like, they take these characters that have these powers, that have these otherworldly things that they can do, but Marvel does a really good job humanizing those characters, giving them flaws, giving them things that we as a people can, like, grasp onto and can hold on to and can say,
Absolutely.
I identify with that. I feel what that character feels right now because I have felt that way at some point in my life. And it humanizes them. It brings them down to our level in a way. DC has always been very different in the way that they present characters, because DC wants you to see these characters as an ideal. They are an aspiration of something that you could be if you were perfect, if you were not flawed. They are like gods among people. So the DC characters, while their ideals are ones that you can strive for or identify with, the characters themselves are less relatable because they are the embodiment of these ideals, as opposed to just these flawed characters that are striving for the same thing that you strive for.
Yeah.
We put our pants on the same way when we get up in the morning. The only difference is you can turn your whole body into a fireball. Well, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, we put our pants on the same way by materializing them out of absent matter.
Yeah.
Have we met?
I mean, my jeans ain't nanotech, but whatever.
Yeah, speaking of genes, the high evolutionary.
I don't know why I have to, dude.
Yeah, right.
Oh man.
One of the things that I absolutely loved, and again, I love, and this is something that it is a disease that I have inherited from WandaVision, and this is where it started. My obsession with speculation. And again, no spoilers there, but we can say, please don't leave the theater early. There are 2 post-credit sequences, one mid, one pre-post. I don't know how the hell they call those things.
Yeah,
anymore.
there's one mid after like the main credits, and then one post after the scrolling credits.
Yeah. And I love how something like this has even more far-reaching implications for the Marvel Universe. And, it, again, this is, if you look all the way back in time to, like, Iron Man and how everything kind of started, and, people were, at that time, before Robert Downey Jr. took the role, like, everybody was like, who the hell cares about Iron Man? He's a freaking drunk character that's, like, way out of his time, but invigorated a whole bunch. And I think Eternals, if people give it a chance, don't look at it like you're going into a typical MCU movie. And again, you've told me this over time. That's the one thing that Marvel does that DC does not do also. It's when you go see a Marvel Cinematic Universe film, it might be a heist movie or a buddy picture or whatever. They are great standalone properties that fit beautifully in a larger pastiche. And that is something that This movie will find its place. I think it was just jarring to a lot of people because it wasn't battle scene after battle scene after battle scene after battle scene.
Yeah.
It was very. There were some great battle scenes in it. It just wasn't the whole focus of the movie. It wasn't telling that story.
It was a
yourself
historical
up.
superhero film.
Hey, stop hating just because it's easy to hate. Which will very
That's
nicely
gonna-
dovetail into other things, won't it, James?
Yeah, which is going to segue us to the next thing. So definitely go see Eternals.
Yes.
Likely you've already seen it if you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You've probably already seen it. If you're on the fence
Actually,
about
otherwise,
it,
how
go
can you
see
sleep?
it.
Yeah, how can you live with yourself if you haven't?
It's good. Speaking of living with yourself, if you fall and you can't get up and you can make one call back, who are you gonna call?
No, James. There's a lot of options there.
Let's talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife. So,
Yeah!
Ghostbusters
yeah!
Afterlife. Ghostbusters Afterlife is the tried and retried and culmination of just years of us wanting a direct sequel to the first two Ghostbusters movies. And they've tried, they haven't been happy with scripts. There's been other, issues that have kind of bogged it down.
Yeah.
This is the time that it all came together. Jason Reitman, the original director, Ivan Reitman's son. Jason,
You know that? He was actually in Ghostbusters 2.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Jason Reitman, this is not his first movie. Jason Reitman, to his credit, has done some really well-received movies, including Juno.
What?
And Thank You for Not Smoking. Is it Thank You for Smoking? I think is the name of it.
Actually, I think it's Thank You for Not Smoking.
It is Thank You for Not Smoking.
Yeah.
So I mean the cast itself, Carrie Coon, who is the mother. It's not going to be spoilery to say, Egon's daughter. Carrie Coon. Interestingly enough, Jack, did you know that Carrie Coon was in the MCU?
I don't know what role, but please wait a minute.
A lot of makeup.
A lot of oh, she was Proxima Midnight.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, I did know that.
Played Proxima Midnight. She was also in Gone Girl. Paul Rudd, obviously we know as Ant-Man.
Sexiest man alive.
And sexiest man alive. Which, according to Ryan Reynolds, is because of his deal with Satan or because he drinks breast milk from a blue whale.
I love that rivalry.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Finn Wolfhard, who is we need a kid in this weird movie.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do that. Stranger Things,
he's currently weird kid number one. Weird
pretty
male
much
kid number one. Yeah.
Mike from Stranger Things, and he was Richie Tozier in It.
Oh my god!
So,
yeah, that's totally
I mean,
get the weird kid. No offense.
And then McKenna Grace, who is Phoebe.
Oh my god.
She was
she was
we're gonna sing her praises. We're gonna sing her praises in a minute. McKenna Grace. McKenna Grace is actually in The Handmaid's Tale. And also played the young Tanya Harding in the I, Tanya drama.
Yeah, there's a movie we needed 30 years later or whatever.
Right?
I'm sorry.
Just in case you guys wanted to know all the inner workings of that situation.
Wow.
Movie was released yesterday, rated PG-13, 2 hours and 4-minute running time.
Didn't feel like it.
I'm gonna give just the initial synopsis, and then I'm going to release Jack upon you.
Oh my god, no! Come on, I won't be able to contain my.
No, I want it. We need it. You've been waiting all night for this. So, Ghostbusters Afterlife is years after the adventures in Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. The original Ghostbusters have all kind of, gone their separate ways. Egon went to this, random farmhouse out in the country and was a recluse. And he passes away, and his daughter finds out that she has inherited this farmhouse and nothing else. She has a pretty low opinion of Egon. Sees him as a deadbeat, like, absentee father. The kids know very little about their grandfather, and as they go to this house, the kids start to discover this legacy that Egon has left behind, and there might be reasons why he came to this specific location, why he had this farmhouse. Okay, things that I absolutely loved about this movie. Pretty much all of it. So this has the sensibilities and pacing of like an 80s, 90s movie, which first I thought was great that it felt like a Ghostbusters movie. But I also really liked that this Ghostbusters movie, unlike the other two, because the other two movies, call a spade, the original Ghostbusters, we were rooting for three really smart, kind of like con men. So at least from like Venkman's standpoint, like
Yeah.
these dudes were a little slimy.
Yeah.
Right?
Why
But
do
they
you
were
carry
lovable.
Thorazine? Just saying,
They were
Venkman. Why do you
lovable.
carry Thorazine? Right.
They were lovable
Right.
con men. But con men nonetheless. This movie made Ghostbusters kind of into the Goonies. Like there was this
Yeah.
scene, like
Yeah.
everybody gets together, they kind of like form a unit. It's these, these disparate kids, or some kids are popular, others are not.
Yeah.
And there's this very like, sort of like coming of age Goonies feel to it. Monster Squad. I could invoke any number of those like 80s teen movies where the group has to get together to do the thing at
Hey
the end of the film.
guys. Yeah.
So they took this Ghostbusters property in 2021 and not only paced it like an 80s 90s movie, then introduced this new old 80s trope to this IP and allowed you to re-experience while being nostalgic about it. Like the first time you see a ghost trap, the first time you see a PKE meter, the proton pack. You sitting there in the theater as a fan of Ghostbusters going, oh yeah. But then watching those characters and watching it through their eyes and seeing them experience these things, having no idea what any of this stuff was. Like having to learn about the Ghostbusters on YouTube.
Yeah. Blows
Right?
my
Like
mind.
that.
Again, all trailer stuff.
So they did like a wonderful job of putting that together. They were respectful and reverent to the material. There were some points where like it wasn't to the level of Force Awakens where like you could side by side some of those scenes and be like, oh, okay, you just kind of ripped this from New Hope,
Yeah, that's
or
just
whatever
kinda
it was.
correct, right?
There wasn't necessarily anything like that, but I will say, like, formula, sure. There's a reason that people buy formula for their babies and only buy certain kinds of formula because it's good and because it works. So if something seems formulaic, you know what? Boil me some water, put the bottle in it, heat it up, and let me have a sip.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. There was very little I did not, love about watching this movie, and the stuff that I didn't love, I really, really liked.
Yeah.
Don't have much bad that I could really comment about this. And given that Jack is our resident Ghostbusters expert, and
You're not?
has lived his life dedicated to this moment, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jack Berkenstock Jr.
Yeah, I think James has said it all. All right, good night, everybody, for joining. No, just.
It was disappointing.
Oh, yeah, I know. It was very anticlimactic. No, it's sincerely just going on. I mean, are there issues that you could possibly bring up with like little minor things? Yeah, there's always points
Probably,
of improvement,
sure.
right? I mean, the one character, the girlfriend of sorts, to their like, maybe could have utilized a little bit better, but like overall, from a nostalgia perspective, do you see
I'm going
what
to
I'm
say this. I can think of one. I'm going to say this in a non-spoilery way. You're going to know exactly what I'm talking about.
Go ahead, feed me.
Why, toward the end of the movie, didn't we have to choose?
Yeah. Yeah. That was also very interesting.
Very, very central, like integral part of Ghostbusters, but
there were a couple of things. I can also say interesting. I love how we're trying to speak in code. Where does Dr. Stance really get his coffee? Is a question that I have, right? It's very important. You know where I'm going with that, right? See, I love now we're generating people like, what the f- are they talking about? Ghostbusters Afterlife, man. Come on, pay attention. Khakis. So, looking at, the movie on a whole, again, I am totally 1000% biased about this movie. Again, I've seen the original over 400 times. Not an exaggeration.
yes, I think this movie feels good on the
On the
whole.
whole. So, the nostalgia beats, they hit me in the feels. There was so much emotion connected to this movie. And there are so many different surprises. That's why James and I wanted to like bust all the spoilers out of the game. We were like, well, it came out yesterday. So maybe we don't want to spoil it just quite yet. So you have a week. Anyway, but it was more than the nostalgia. Like, James said, the pacing of it was very reminiscent of an 80s film. But I also have to say that first of all, as an original Ghostbusters fan, I do not hate the 2016 movie with the all-female cast. I think it represents a different style of comedy. And I'm going to kind of fall back a little bit and say there are aspects of this movie, specifically with Phoebe's character, that people had clear characters that they were playing. It wasn't everybody was the zany one. And again, part of that borrowing that James talked about, you will identify this is the Venkman style character of sorts. This is the Egon character of sorts. It's going to be easy for you to see that. But I don't think it overplayed it. I think it was a brilliant callback and like a passing of the torch. Were there a couple? I mean, critics, again, it's mostly about critics pissing me off because they talk about dumb shit. Like at one point, and this is not a spoiler, but one reviewer basically said,
And I really didn't appreciate, the way that the SJWs introduces all this woke culture stuff in, talking about, no gender for, and it was like, wait a minute, you call yourself a fan of the original Ghostbusters, and you don't remember the conversation on the roof where Winston Zedmore was, well, what the hell is Gozer? Is it a woman or a man? And Dan Aykroyd, as Dr. Stance responds, it's whatever it wants to be. That's part of lore. Shut up, drop your platform, don't want it here. This movie is golden, this movie is pure. it could have ended in the middle, and I still would have paid money to see it again.
That's a direct quote from Jack's mouth during the movie.
Yeah, it is not just for fans. I think that also, and here, yeah, I'll say it. So come at me, anti-SJW people, whatever. I think Phoebe is a phenomenal character who's a great inspiration for little girls. Girls can be Ghostbusters too. There, take that to the bank. It was everything I hoped for and more. Like it.
Can I?
Please
Can
go
I,
ahead.
can I just say, Phoebe, much like Egon, because I've heard some people talk about this.
Mhm.
Phoebe, I did not, even though there are characteristics there,
Uh-huh.
did not track as autistic.
No, I didn't
Right?
see that
Like,
at all.
she's just a nerd. She's into science, man. Like
Yeah.
the interactions with humans can be awkward without somebody saying, immediately like, well, because one of them's obviously got to be autistic. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with her being autistic. She was
Right.
one of the things that Jack and I have talked about a lot that didn't necessarily work in the favor of the 2016 female-led Ghostbusters as opposed to the other Ghostbusters movies is that characterization. The fact that Egon's lines were funny because he was serious.
Yeah, he was deadpan.
Like Janine talking
Do you have
to
any
him.
hobbies?
Hobbies?
I collect
spores,
molds,
molds, and fungus.
Straight.
And that was that. Like he
Wait.
meant that.
Wait. No, you're very intellectual to me. Do you read? Do you remember his response line?
Print is dead.
That just delivered.
That's
with
very
such-
interesting to me.
Right. I read a lot
And
myself.
she tried-
Some people.
And she's trying so hard to just maintain the conversation
Right,
with
he
this
just wants-
brick wall of a human being. Like,
Right.
Egon, you remember that time that you tried to drill a hole through your head? That would have worked
Would
if
have
you hadn't
worked if you
stopped
hadn't
me.
stopped me.
So Phoebe as Egon's granddaughter in this movie,
Again, not a
It's just-
spoiler, folks.
she does not know who her grandfather was. So the fact that she carries this trait, this love of science, to the point where she just feels like other people are not on her level. And it's not because she's being it's what's the word that I'm looking for? She's not an elitist about it.
Yeah.
It's the
That's
fact
a
that
good way to
she
phrase it.
knows that she's awkward. She knows that she's off-putting, so she doesn't try to have those like social interactions with other people because she just assumes the outcome. And most of the time that's probably built on again, she's a scientist or aspiring scientist, factual data.
Yeah. Well,
She has had these
Okay, so you could tell we're both like, ah! So like you could tell in a lot of her interactions, because there's also been a lot of people who go, man, the character of podcast, like he was totally worthless. I'm like, no, will you please? Could we stop just automatically finding the cracks in vases everywhere? Could we try and look at the thing as a whole? Yeah, you can nitpick the death. Any movie that is like a classic. I could find problems with The Godfather. I could have problems with, friggin' Big Trouble in Little China, right? And I'm not talking about the it doesn't age well problem. I'm talking about, you have like technical issues with everything. But Phoebe, I think, because here's how I'll phrase it, James. I think that a lot of people who experience struggles by experiencing autism and being on the spectrum, I think that they could find an ally in the representation of Phoebe. But I think that by automatically assuming, she has social skills challenge, because if you really look at her behavior in the movie, she doesn't have social skills. She understands that she's awkward in certain situations. She even, she can read the room better than some. And again, even further, you can't look, not werewolfism,
Okay, you can't look at a person and go, "Oh, that's definitely an autistic or whatever." That's rude. It's very disrespectful. If you've met one person with autism, congratulations, you've met one person with autism.
Much like Ray and Egon together. Without podcast, Phoebe is a cold, like calculating, but not necessarily relatable character. Having podcasts to play off of allows us to see Phoebe actually have character development. She starts to become a little more outgoing. She starts to, like, when she takes charge, she's not barking orders
Right.
when she's doing it. You know what I mean? Like, she's being a hard ass because it's like she's confident. Right? And I don't think that happens without those interactions with podcast. Without
Yeah, I agree with that.
I made a friend. You know what I mean? Like that whole
Right.
like don't be yourself, right? Like that.
Yeah, and here's the reality. I mean, when you get guys like Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray on a set, I mean, they're always brilliant. You know, Ernie Hudson, of course, phenomenal as usual. Like he just lives that role, right? I think again, talking about the difference when you look at these folks, there are people playing characters, but we were talking about this before on a previous show that we hope to resurrect and bring to the Bodhana Twitch channel. Yes or Nostalgia. We talked about Ghostbusters in like a pilot that we did, and we were talking very much about this idea about character-driven comedy versus joke-driven comedy. Because a lot of people also say, well, Ghostbusters Afterlife wasn't funny. I remember Ghostbusters, and it was a laugh-a-minute riot. Well, you didn't see the same movie that I saw, because if you go back and watch the original Ghostbusters, no, it was not a laugh riot. There were movie moments in that were scary as hell, given the fact that it was a horror comedy.
Yeah,
It was
the
not a
chair.
straight. Yes, the chair was
Bring out of the
terrifying.
chair. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a movie that told a definitive good story, but you had characters responding to those events as a character. It wasn't a yuck fest, which part of the issue that I have anyway with the 2016 was the fact that here's 4 SNL ladies, right? Or ladies that, you know, because Melissa McCarthy. Well, I don't think she was a cast member. No,
I don't know.
she was the only one that wasn't a cast member. But they can all riff because most of them are SNL people. They can all improv because Melissa McCarthy's funny. But so let's just get them all to riff and everybody has a joke. Wait a minute. So you mean that joke after Bill Murray's character in that movie, not Venkman, but gets thrown out a window and you're cracking jokes in the street? Like, what the hell kind of character is that? That's horrible. Just to tell a joke or to tell a yuck? No. There was gravitas. There were serious moments in those old films. I'm not just talking about Ghostbusters, but we have a good story, there's a plot that is driving, and there are real people responding to it, not just vessels for jokes. And I think that specifically, and I'm sorry I can't remember the young lady's name, but who played Phoebe, like there was a solid, for a young actress.
Grace McKenna.
Thank you. Her portrayal, like she was on.
I'm
Like,
sorry, McKenna Grace.
McKenna Grace. Yeah, she was on. You know what I mean? And I think that everybody, I mean, again, Paul Rudd, I can watch him in anything. I don't think that man's made a bad movie that I can. I mean, I first saw him in, what was it, Clueless was his first role, or one of his majors. Like, yeah, everybody was phenomenal. It's definitely a stone watch that you need to go check out immediately. I know I am going to plan to go see it again in the theater. Just because it's. I mean, it doesn't have to be seen in a theater. It isn't that amazingly huge set piece. But yeah, it's directed well. It's paced well. The humor is great. The story is great. If you're an old fan, I think it'll touch you more than with the new viewer. But I think it's a great movie that I think you should take kids to. It's not blue in any way. There's some spooky, scary moments, but that's okay for a kid. Just like the library ghost, or, you know, like you said, the chair from the original Ghostbusters, I think that they're, you know, It will not
Even
disappoint.
Slimer can be scary
Yeah,
to
especially
kids.
the original Slimer before they cartooned him up after the real Ghostbusters cartoon.
The one with the gorilla.
Yes, Crimson, totally accurate. It's a different style of comedy, and it's not that one is better or worse than the other. But when you saw, like, if you saw Stripes, Meatballs, all of those older Bill Murray properties, you were watching Bill Murray. That was his shtick at that time. Even I think that maybe that's we should hold a podcast on, James. The loss of the art of shtick.
Things that shtick with you.
Or it could just be called Shtick With Me Here. Right? Maybe. But yeah,
What sticks in my craw? Yeah.
sticks in my
All
craw.
right, we should probably stop.
Oh.
So yeah, Jack and I completely agree. This is a fantastic entry
Absolutely.
into the Ghostbusters franchise. I do hope that they consider continuing, but I do think that again, like this movie, it took a little while because it needed to be right.
Yeah.
No, and I think that needs to be the thing going forward too, not just let's do it because money.
Yeah.
But we know that wins more often than not. Hey, Jack,
Yeah, James.
that's all we had to talk about.
That is all we had to talk about. We're done up?
The re-inaugural episode of the Bodhana cast is coming to a close. How do you feel? Good? Feel nostalgic? A little twitchy?
I feel great.
Good. I'd like to run some more tests.
Great. No, what did you say?
Okay.
Okay. That's it. Okay. That was my only boo or bummer moment.
No Rick Moranis.
No Rick Moranis as
Not
Louis
even a
Tully.
reference to Louis Tully. I kind of thought maybe we would get something from Janine
Yeah,
on
at
that,
least
even
a
like
little
a
something.
reference to him. Nothing.
Yeah, there's some other surprises that we can't talk about because they would be kind of spoilery. But there were other connections that could have been a draw to that character. Because yeah, Louis Tully, who actually in the original John Candy originally auditioned to play the part of Louis Tully, and he was going to be some weird German character with Doberman Pinschers. Thankfully, they went with Rick Moranis. But again, I'm not mad at Mr. Moranis. I understand
not at
why
all.
he was out of the biz, but I hope
So-
he'll return someday.
One thing that we want to do with the Bodhana cast is we want you guys to see that, like, yes, our mission is to utilize games for therapeutic and skill building reasons to help further people's both personal and mental health journey, to be able to find more ways to use gaming positively, tabletop gaming. But another thing that we kind of want to demonstrate with this is like Jack and I are in this, like, in all facets. Like we
Get our fingers in all the nerd pots.
yeah, we
video
consume a lot of
gamers.
we
Yeah.
consume a lot of things, and we were kind of asked to just demonstrate that, which we will continue to do. I want to thank folks that were here, that were watching us, the folks that continue to support us.
Absolutely.
If you would like to know more, you can go to www.thebodhanagroup.org, where you can check out the website, see all of our services, get more detail, be able to contact us. Very shortly, we are going to have a Discord up and running where you will not only have direct access to us, but also have a channel for this particular show, that you can send us notes and comments and things you like, things you didn't think hit. We will take all criticism because we have now put ourselves out there. And much like every nightmare that I had when I was in high school, I am now standing publicly on the internet with no pants. Because that's how it feels to be out in the public view. And you know what? Okay with it, because I'm wearing my Baby Yoda boxers. So You can follow us on Twitter at the Bodhana Group, Facebook the Bodhana Group. Please, if you've watched this and you have enjoyed even 5 minutes of this show, follow us.
Yes.
Because we will, in a completely non-creepy way, return the favor and follow you.
Totally non-creepy.
That's what we're here for.
Like not a knock on your front door and going, "Hi, I saw you followed us on the Twitch. How you doing?"
We'll also keep you up to date with different trainings and programs and things that we're going to have coming up as we swing into the new year. Jack and I have a lot of stuff coming up on the plate. You're going to have some other shows the rest of this month. We still have Roll for Terror coming up, where I am going to run people through a one-shot Deadlands game. With my goal being to make at least one of them pee themselves.
Good to have goals.
Yep. So I myself still am as I was at the beginning, James Kirk.
I am still as I was at the beginning as well, Jack Berkenstock Jr. You can follow me not only at Bodhana Group. I do most of the posting there. I am also at Bodhana Jack on Twitter. And in the other spheres, you can check us out on Facebook as well as our main website, which James already referenced. And yeah, come on, check in with us, folks. Let us know what you want us to review. We got a lot of surprises coming down, and
yeah, if you guys want us to talk about something, we can fit it in. We can find a way.
We could do a whole other half an hour if need be.
I'll base it on something, man.
I'll stay up all night. I got coffee.
Bring it on.
What are we doing tomorrow, James?
Oh man, yeah. So tomorrow,
Yeah. Because otherwise it looked like you just had a moment.
Jack, are doing this with us?
Oh my god.
You really should.
Tomorrow, what it is and when it is.
Crimson and myself and what do you go by?
Vel.
Okay. At least three of us, and maybe Jack, maybe others, we'll find out. We are going to be switching and streaming Back for Blood, the zombie shooting things game, full of zombie and bullets.
Yep.
So while we don't usually really necessarily talk about utilizing video games, we are on Twitch, and we thought it would be fun for you to see folks in the Bodhana group doing things that are not tabletop related with people.
Yeah.
So tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, you tune in and watch at least me and Crimson and Val shoot many dead things.
Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time.
All right. Yeah, I will check over one thing on my schedule, but it's I have to also figure I can run on my future.
I don't have to. I talked today. We talked about that when we're off here. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in for our inaugural episode.
And thank you, Crimson Pleasure, as always, for helping to keep us on track, being our wonderful producer, as well as promoter, helping with all manner of social media, as well as literally the reason that we're not able to rise on Twitch. So this inaugural could not have happened. So I want to make sure to send out a thanks. So yeah. We'll see you at the table real soon, folks. Please well, stay safe, take care of each other and yourselves, okay?